Captain's Table. This is a podcast dedicated to Star Citizen, and welcome to the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. The Captain's Table is obviously dedicated to Star Citizen content. We talk about Star Citizen news, we talk about maybe some theory crafting, we do a little bit of reviews and such in the past. And I try to bring people from all over the fandom of Star Citizen to talk about the game. So if you like this sort of thing, there's an entire pod. I've been doing this for, my brain is not working right now. It's like 8 or 9 years now. No, it can't be that long. 2016. I've been doing this since 2016. And as a result, I think I'm one of the oldest podcasts that's still active for Star Citizen. So, All right. Anyways, joining me today, because the topic today is going to be, we're just going to look at 3.22. What is 3.22? The goods, the bads, all sorts of things. I'm going to start with the new face to the Captain's Table, but not a new face to the community. Mr. The Nerdy Gentleman. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
Hi, everybody. I'm the Nerdy Gentleman. I do a variety of stuff, but primary focus is lore-based in-game original musical artists creating music with different genres, from country to rock to 90s grunge to rap to everything. And you can find me on at the Nerdy Gentleman on YouTube and on Twitch and on everywhere. I still have a hard time with Twitch. It's one of those ones I haven't been able to go through and really crack the egg on that one yet. But so I do streams with just gaming in general with my org, and then also do stuff with kind of getting the community involved with writing lyrics or music for new music stuff that come out. And we just had one that came out a couple days ago called Our Way of Life, a song for the miners of the community.
Yeah, it's very good.
Mining community.
Miners mining. That's a completely different genre. That's
oh yeah. You get put up on lists if that happens. So
child labor in Star Citizen. There you have your scandal for the marketing.
I mean, we could talk about the Mesa era, and we could talk about Anthony Tanaka, but we're not going to go that direction.
Right.
All right. And so it's youtube.com/the Nerdy Gentleman. Is it the Nerdy Gentleman everywhere? Is there any kind of weird
Nerdy Gentleman
stuff?
everywhere? Nerdy Gentleman on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. But primary focus has been YouTube. I've been really trying to go through and build a bigger audience on the YouTube side of it for streaming. And it's going well. It's actually it's changed up quite a bit since whenever they first introduced the YouTube gaming. I don't think they call it that anymore. I don't think they call it YouTube Gaming for the streaming services.
Yeah, I think it's just YouTube Live or something like that. So,
yeah. So primarily on YouTube, and then I try to go through and annoy people in the community hub and the Spectrum as much as possible.
It's great. No, I first came upon you because you know how YouTube gives you those mentions. It's like you mentioned me in one of your songs. It's like it's one of my videos, one of my lore videos. So I listened to it. So I'm like, this is great. And then I went through and like, oh, there's a lot of these. These are great.
Yeah, I think so far we're up to 7 originals, and then 2 have variations. So I actually had somebody in the community for they went through and did a remix to City Lights to Satellites, and then we have an acoustic version. So I think altogether there's 9 or 10 songs out for the community right now that are all, and I base them all around like, so I create a character for either my most prolific one is Drake Nelson, who is a mix between like Willie Nelson and John Denver, and of course, Paul's for all the notifications. It's that time of year, Christmas presents showing up. And then kind of mixed them with inside the game. So I kind of wanted to have that. I'm a big fan of all musical genres, but I grew up in that time frame of 80s, 90s country, like that prime country kind of era, whenever it was kind of like half rock, half country. And then through the best time in music of I still say the 80s and 90s were the best times in music. So you had like the grunge scene, you had the punk scene, you had everything going from
electronica and techno
everything.
And
like
everything,
it was just really, really expanding. Aphex Twin, like when I remember the first time I heard Aphex Twin, it was just like mind was blown with music in general. So big fan of music, big fan of everything. Had a lot of influences on there. So I kind of go through and take my favorite artists. And the song that you're actually referencing to, I think, was Where True Power Comes.
Where True Power Comes.
And that was my tribute to bands like Flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys and stuff like that, who are just incredible. And so I kind of take I try to make it to where it sounds like it would fit in their wheelhouse, but keep it to where it's original. So it's reminiscent. It's pulling on those nostalgia strings and making it to where it's something in the game, and it's based around the lore in the game. So all these characters that I kind of create these artists for, they don't know that they're in a game. And I do the same thing like with my Inverse News series. It's kind of like everything that's happening in the real world, but from the perspective of people in the game is like, there's a new patch to the operating system for that. That's kind of how to phase those things out.
Nice.
So it just makes it to where it's fun. And I think it adds to, at least in my head, kind of like the lore of the game, of making it to where this whole community inside there, and it's nice.
Yeah.
So
now I have to challenge you, because there's they just updated the lore for S-pop, which is apparently music which is made by a soft wood guitar and nature noises.
Yep.
So,
I actually did look that up for a while, because I was like, what is there? Is there already type of like a genre of music? And I was like, I don't know how to recreate this.
I don't know how to do this.
Soft guitar and nature noises. But I actually do remember looking it up for S-pop, and it was a big thing for quite a few years in the system. And then I don't know. I don't know if it's been going through, but you said there's an update to the lore with it. Is there something new that came upon it?
I think it's mostly like kind of expansions. Like there's a couple groups they added, new groups that I've added. There's one specific one that's pretty famous right now. So, so
hopefully I'd love to go through and actually work with the lore team. Every time I see somebody come up from the lore team and they have them on a ISC or a SCL or something like that, I'm like, ooh, how do I get in touch with this person? It's one of those things, because there is, I think that I can say that I believe right now I'm the most prolific non CIG entity music creator for Star Citizen. So I'm like, hey, can we do something to work here? Like, these are all really, really fun. And I do it because I just really enjoy it. It's one of my creative outlets that I get to go through and just kind of write and just kind of like add to the environment. And if people like it, and if people want to go through and add it to a playlist, I know I have the songs out on Spotify and Google Play and everything like that. And I have a lot of people reach out and just like, hey, I added this to this playlist, and it's awesome because you can go through and it's just like being a space trucker. And I'm like, that's kind of the whole point, is just would be a radio station you would hear in game. So
yeah, it's great. So, and Major, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
I'll keep it short. Apparently, I'm famous. So I'm Thomas. I go by Major Star Stuff. I used to go by T Games and Star Stuff. I used to introduce myself just as a copywriter, T expert, and nowadays xenolinguistics enthusiast, I should say. So I've got a background in marketing, PR, copywriting, brand strategy, linguistics, decades back, and during one of my Star Citizen burnouts, as it were, this year I kind of found that the Banu language was what helped me to get really excited again with Star Citizen in a way that I thought I wouldn't be able to by just doing the piracy thing that Voidy and the boys and me maybe going about every now and then. So and then I made a video about the Banu language, an introduction to the Banu language, which I guess was fairly successful as goes for ultra niche content like alien languages in a specific video game. The follow-up one that I released like 3 weeks ago, specifically about the Banu alphabet, I think could use a few more views. Wink, wink.
Go watch it.
So I'm still trying to see where it goes, and if I'm okay with being like one of the Banu guys, right? Or if I want to focus on language stuff in general. I mentioned a moment ago, I used to go by T Games and Star Stuff, so my professional and personal passion for T and my passion for gaming, I tried to bring that together. Nerdy Gentleman mentioned Twitch, so a few years back I streamed on and off for 2 or 3 years T as in Chinese tea. Focus.
Nice.
Like that kind of stuff. Yeah, focus not working. Anyway. And so streaming educational tea content kind of from space. So Elite Dangerous, Pew Pew, while talking about Chinese teapots, that sort of stuff. So ultra niche.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to understand that you have to pick one or the other in order to not lose the audience, or not to, in order not to get too niche. So that's what I've been trying with the Bantu language focus for my Star Citizen content. Yeah, but we'll see where it goes. If you're into tea, follow me over on probably on Instagram. That's where my tea crowd lives. Otherwise, I may or may not try to build that YouTube channel for the tea stuff. That will be youtube.com/ThomasTalksT @ThomasTalksT. But my main channel is indeed the @Major Star stuff for the Star Citizen xenolinguistics stuff.
Nice.
That was me keeping it
short. It's going to be one of those. I should go here to live. But yeah, no, as I've discovered pretty recently, it's like you really have to, and this is one of those weird rules about YouTube. It's like you really need to have you can't multitask on one channel. Like if you want to do like I have this channel and then I have the Astro Historian. It used to be the Astro Historian channel. I converted to being Astro Historian, but it was really just one. And then I had to create this channel specifically for AstroPub content. And then I've got the Lore Citizen podcast, which is another podcast that's kind of on hiatus right now that I want to bring back. But if I bring it back, I can't put it on the Astro Historian because it's long form, and most of the stuff on the Astro Historian isn't long form. So it has to be its own channel to do all of that in. And if I want to, I'm a big fan of like mecha games and stuff like that. So if I wanted to dive into that more often, I'd probably have to do a completely separate channel to do that. So it's one of those like. You just have to make a lot of content. If you want to make good content, and you want to make a lot of different types of content, you often have to just have different channels to be able to do that stuff. So
it is really unfortunate too. My first soiree I did was Dream Reaver 23 on YouTube for the longest time. I still have the channel Dream Reaver 23. My content over there primarily started off taking off. I had music and stuff like that, originals and everything on there. Started taking off whenever I started doing Minecraft content back in 2010, 2011.
Oh yeah.
Started doing Minecraft parodies, trade shop, a lot of that. I have like 43 Minecraft parodies that I've done on for popular songs and everything like that. Yeah. And at one point in time, used to make a considerable income doing gaming parodies on there. My big claim to fame before I switched over to the Nerdy Gentleman channel was I did a song called Hey There Kadala, a parody of Hey There Delilah by the Plain White Tees. And it got referenced inside Diablo 3. It was for the game Diablo. I'm a huge Diablo fan, have been ever since original Diablo. And that was my one big claim to fame, was that I got referenced inside the game and the seasonal journeys for my parodies. And I got reached out to by the development team, and they're like, we love this song so much. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah,
so but you can't go through, and that was that same side of it. You can't, like, because I had Minecraft stuff, and whenever I stopped playing Minecraft and I switched to different games, people were like, I don't care. And so you had 50,000-60,000 people that
just leave.
You'd put a new video up and you'd have like 3 views on it. And you're like, how is this? Why? And because they go for that one specific thing, and if you don't do that one specific thing,
you're
off to another game.
And it's also the algorithm gets confused because it's like, wait, you're doing something, it's not this,
right?
So
yeah.
All right. Well, all this introductions aside, let's talk a little bit about 3.22, because I think 3.22 has got some unique aspects to it in terms of, like, historically, the last patch of the year is always sort of weird. It's either a buggy mess or really, like, cut back in terms of ambition, because it usually it's, they have, it's the only patch that they have a hard deadline. Like, they have to release it before they go on break, because CIG goes on break for the last week, usually around the week of December, last week of December, so like around the holiday, Christmas holiday, and then they usually have another week off at the very beginning around for the New Year's holiday. So they have those 2 weeks off, so they have to release it before then, and as a result, it makes for some weird patch. But I think 3.22 is a unique patch, is that I think it's more of a full patch in comparison to what we've seen before. But Major, since you were the last one to introduce yourself, I want you to tell me, what do you think? Do you think we're seeing a a like your overall opinion about 3.22 goods, bads, just your general feels, and we'll go into more details with the goods and bads.
So when I saw you updating the Discord and putting up the topic for today, I panicked because up until then I had only played 3.22 on the EPTU like for maybe an hour or two, so not really qualified to talk about it. I played it a lot since the live release the other day, and you're kind of asking me on the worst of days because I spent 6 hours today in the game, 6 to 8 hours today in the game, trying to practice my hull fracturing skills with the Reclaimer. And if any of you Reclaimer owners will probably, maybe some of you have been luckier than I have, but I had 3 times where I got stuck with the Reclaimer in the hangar, so the landing gear actually clipping into either the wall or the floor of the hangar. I'm not sure if that's a hangar issue or a Reclaimer issue. I think the Reclaimer seems to have improved, like the elevators aren't as deadly or as bad as they used to. I still see the main elevator glitching every now and then into the ground. Anyway, so I lost a lot of money today trying to make money. But that's why I was like, oh no, why is the captain's table today out of all days? But with that being said, trying to be a bit more objective here, I think it's great to see a lot of things getting added to the game. Obviously, it's not the whole bunch of things that we saw for CitizenCon. I was going to say IAE for CitizenCon, because that we will only be able to, like, we should expect that probably first half of next year, right? Or over the course of the next year anyways. But there's a lot of things that got added to the game, the new outposts, new Jumptown locations. Shout out to my friend and Jumptown connoisseur, Nerv Azar. And the addition to the hull munching as an addition to the salvaging gameplay, I think that's great, and a lot of other things. So I feel like the gameplay loops are either they're not really getting more, but they're getting more refined and they're getting fledged. And yes, arguably, hull munching or salvaging, it's the hull munching part is still just click the mouse button, wait, click another mouse button, and arguably that could be a bit more of a mini game or something to make it more complex in the future. But I said earlier, or I think I commented on someone's video, I said earlier today, as long as the Reclaimer is in the state that it is in currently, and it's part of the hull munching gameplay loop, right? That's enough of a risk, enough of a complex thing to handle. Anyway, so I feel like having that
is such a kind of weird place, yeah.
So having that kind of, because the product, if you see the hull munching gameplay loop as a product, the product is the gameplay loop, but it's also the tools you need for that. And the Vulture has been working great, I hear, but the Reclaimer really makes it challenging or borderline frustrating, to be honest. So I think it does not need any further complexity at this very point, but in the future, obviously, yeah. But okay. To again, my point being, I think it's nice to see the gameplay loops getting more and more complex, more and more content finding its way into the game. And I say that as someone who's only been with the game for less than 2 years. And even I can see, wow, this is more complex. There's more things to do. Even when you only want to do, even if you only want to do industrial gameplay, if you only want to do combat, if you only want to do this or that, there's more things to do in your niche of gameplay loops. That's how I feel. So that's the great part.
Just overall. Okay. No, gentlemen, same question. Just your overall opinion of 3.22. We'll go into more details here in a moment.
So right now, I'm actually really, really happy. I've been a backer of the game for since September 2013, and so for me, this time frame of like, if a patch comes through, if it's not like DOA from bugs, if you're able to get out of elevators, I love that you brought up elevators, because we were actually just talking about that the other day. I was like, I don't actually know of anybody that's died in an elevator in a while in this game, and that used to be the running thing. Like, you couldn't get out of spots.
Now that you said it, all of the comments down below in the video. All of the video, all the comments in the video, all of the chat is just going to be, I died to an elevator 5 seconds ago, you monster.
Right.
You know, because that's the rule. That's
How
the rule.
dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so for me, like this patch has felt really, really, really good in the sense that they did introduce a new gameplay functionality, or an addition to with salvaging on there. It came through, and there was a lot of transitions and fixes from whenever it was coming through from the PTU when it first got introduced. Everybody hated it. I even had a video that was just like, but it's going to get better kind of thing. We have 2 new vehicles or 3 new vehicles, 2 new stuff coming out to be able to buy. Like it feels like a really good end of year patch, and coming from a spot to where we're saying like we've had those patches, that end of year patch, to where it's going to be broken for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like to go through to now where I'm like, yeah, there's some problems with. I did experience some of the problems with some of the frame drops around some of the new locations and stuff like that. The really, really bad frame drops. But even still, I'm like, yeah, I can play this, for a month or 2 until they get the next kind of patch cycle in for it. Yeah.
Or just
like everything else, like is solid. And one of the great things about the Star Citizen community is like we are great about finding and utilizing workarounds to make sure that we can still play the game every day. And in my org, we're like every night we pop on, we're like, hey, who's down? And we're like, yes, let's go, and we'll figure out the workarounds. But so far with this patch, it's felt really, really good in the comparison. And I know we had some hard patches this year, but for those that have been around at any length of time in the game knows that we know how bad patches go, and this one doesn't feel like a bad patch. So I think in a kind of an opinion out there, I think people that are putting out videos saying this is a terrible patch, and I have seen a few videos where people are really calling out stuff because they were disappointed because one different thing didn't happen. I think they're stretching and really kind of searching for it. I think that this is, as patches go in the community, this is a pretty solid one, and a good solid one, because it'll probably be 3 or 4 weeks before we kind of start to get to see the next round of stuff kind of starting to trickle in. And that's going to be, probably just patches and fixes and updates and everything like that. So this one feels great for an end of year patch. Honestly, for any point in the year patch, this feels like a really good solid patch that came through, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah. I'll say my overall opinion. Go ahead, Major.
If I may weigh in on that just briefly, I 100% agree. I would say and again, with me only being with the game for less than 2 years, I can obviously not talk to the patches that are way in the past, but I would go even. I'm tempted to go so far as to say, despite my frustration today, I would go so far as to say it's probably my favorite patch so far. Not because it adds something that's out of the world, super special, been awaited, something like server meshing, for example. But I remember back when hull scraping first got introduced. I was around back then already with the vulture. That was super. Everybody was hyped about it. It was super interesting. But it was kind of one of the, unless I'm mistaken, one of the things that the patch introduced, but there was not that much more. And with this patch, I feel like there's a wide variety of things that they've been. It feels like the Kraken is spreading its legs, if you will, and that feels something is happening there, and it's in line with the story they've been telling us and that we've seen for CitizenCon, like with things getting added. And of course we hear that the integration of the Squadron 42 team into the Star Citizen structures is going to take them a bit more, but it feels to me like there's stuff happening, and maybe I'm naive to be saying that just because of this one patch, but it feels relevant, and it feels multifaceted and more complex a patch than patches in the past, or more varied. Yeah.
I'll agree. I think the thing that strikes me about 3.22, 3.22 is that it feels almost like a mundane patch with a massive addition, because yes, a whole vibrating, it's whole munching, but now that the way they described it in lore,
Structural salvage.
It's not structural salvage. It's hole munching. And if it's not going to be called hole munching, then I'm going to call it hole vibrating, because hole vibrating has as equal amount of lewdness as hole munching does. So, and I think that's an appropriate approach. So you're literally vibrating the molecules that bind it together to rip it apart. So vibrating is in my mind an appropriate term for it. But Thanos straw. I like that. The fact that was added as just kind of a casual ad, be like, yeah, we just wanted to get it out before the end of the year so we could get some feedback and figure out some of that stuff. It's like, and then they just last minute, by the way, we added new jump time locations. By the way, we did this. By the way, we did that. But it feels much more like a, hey, by the way, we were finishing this. And I think it may have not even been this patch. It may have been the last patch, which is the data heist missions. I think that was this patch. I might be wrong with that.
No, actually, I don't know. Well, I think it was the last patch.
Might have been
the last patch. I think it was 321.1.
Yeah. That's the problem, is that like they've been adding so many things that like they're casually adding things which 2 years ago.
Sorry, I just saw Wardo.
I'm trying to see what he said.
Yeah, let's not repeat that on stream.
Yes, I did 100% say that, Wardo. I did say that. I stand by it.
It threw me off that much where I was like, yeah, listening. Wait.
No. Like 2 years ago, like something like a data heist mission going in, or something like a new jump town locations would have been everyone talking about it. CIG would have done 4 ISCs about it. They would have there would have been like multiple threads about them talking about it, and everyone would be like, it's just a new outpost, y'all. They just copied and pasted it. Like we shouldn't care. Like CIG reached for, like, I remember maybe this was last year or the year before that, which was coffee shops. When they added a coffee vendor, CIG was talking all about the coffee vendor, and a lot of people were like, "What is this? Like, we are scraping the bottom of the barrel for content if this is a major feature of a patch." But now CIG is dropping new missions and new gameplay mechanics and new locations and an entirely new faction in the game in a single patch, and it's just like, hey, here you go, just yours now. Like, at the same time, plus updates to the head to like customizations, 3 new ships, 1 ship that was completely not mentioned until they just dropped it in live. So like it's stuff. We're definitely, this feels very different because of how mundane it feels with all of this stuff that's being added. And that is what I really took away from 3.22 overall, is that, good or bad, because Star Citizen's going to have bugs for a while. It's going to be buggy for a while, y'all. I've heard people talking about like, oh, I can't wait for 4.0 because it'll fix all the bugs. And it's like, let me sit you down right now and walk you back to the reality here. Like, it's going to be bad for a while. But it's playable. And it's funny you mentioned like all of the little workarounds we do. I realize that I'm going to start knowing people based off of how long they've played Star Citizen, based off of the things you do, because you learn how to move and how to like where you go based off of like to work around, step around this way, move to the right, like slow down, slow walk when you go into an elevator, because if you don't, you break your leg. So if everyone's running into the elevator and they're slow walking in the elevator, I go, you're old. You've been around a while. And for those of you who are new, you'll find your own workarounds, which will do the exact same thing for you in the future. And once that gets fixed, you probably won't change your stuff. So it's interesting. We're kind of creating that culture as it is. So, gosh, what was I going to say? But yeah, overall, I say I have positive experiences with it. I won't say it's the best patch of the year. I know some people were saying, I think it's the best year-end patch we've had in a long time. And the fact that it's playable, though has problems, says a lot. Especially since they released it a week before they actually went on break, because I think they go on break at not sometime next week. So we may even have a hot fix or two before the end of before they go off on
that is true. That is true. I didn't think about that.
So who knows? All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the negatives that we have. Nerd Gentleman, I'll start with you on this one. What are some of the negatives of the patch? Something that people should know about if they're going in from, say, they jumped off in like 3.17 and they're finally coming back in 3.22. Like, what are some of the negatives they may experience?
So far, the biggest ones that I've seen are kind of exclusively around kind of the new gameplay stuff, right? So I have seen the frame rate drop on the new locations. Like it's amazing that they added, what is it, like 15 new outposts or something like that in the game. I haven't been able to get to one. The first time I was coming in, I won't say hot, but I was coming in pretty quickly, and the frame rate dropped to where I was getting 1 frame every 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I just blew up, and I'm like, oh,
seconds per frame.
That's the thing. Yeah. So it's like literally having to go through and really drop back down. And that's the thing that I think they're probably going to try to put their most time into, is because they wanted to show people these new experiences. But that's been one of the bigger ones. And then me and my org, we did a lot of, we like stuffed a reclaimer the other day. And the biggest thing we were seeing with that was there was a lot, like the reclaimer is not made for all the new systems that got it put into it. And it's like, no, there's this grid, and we were stuffing it everywhere. And you would lose stuff out of the ship, or it would go through and start glitching and smack somebody and knock them unconscious. Or so, I mean, just a lot of bugs along those lines. But overall, I really want to try to find negatives other than frame rate drops. I know that a few people have been, I really wish they would have gone through and fixed the bug where you call in when you're trying to come in for docking, and it says, okay, please proceed to your assigned landing bay. And you're like, awesome. Where is it?
Yeah.
I'm in a reclaimer. It's hard enough to move this thing around as it is. Now let me go through and be like, okay, is it this one?
Yeah.
Nope. Let's scoot that way. Is it this? Like small little things that aren't game breaking by any means. And you'll find ways to work around them, but they really do affect quality of life. I appreciate all the stuff that they put into there and all the little small secret stuff they did through and some of the changes and the updates to, the ships and the UIs and stuff like that. And so I don't want to sound like I'm
this is
squandered on all this stuff. But
this is like, the negative side. You feel free to get it out. Just go.
Those quality of life things to me are so big though. Like there is a reason why they call them quality of life little things. Being able to go through and call a docking station or get a landing port or whatever and find a spot and be like, oh, it's over there. It seems so simple, but when you're going through and literally have a reclaimer set up with 900,000 or whatever billion, it literally everything we could go and get 8 SCU box into, and you're like, okay, this is literally like 10, 11 million credits worth of stuff, and I'm just trying to get to the station. And I can't find a spot, and I don't want to crash this thing, and I don't want to, to me, that's stuff to where it goes through, and you can lose a couple hours worth of work with friends, and it's already hard enough to get together with friends in the first place. So that's one of my biggest things, is there are those small quality of life things that I don't want to say it's an easy fix, because I know it's probably not, but I would have preferred them to go through and put a little bit more time into those to make sure that they worked like every time than some of the other things that came out and that are, the frame rates are dropping like crazy, or bugs or issues with bugs inside the specific ships that go through and have new functionality, such as the reclaimer. That's the spots that kind of kill me right there. So you're just like, you were this close for it to be from being a good mundane patch, kind of, as you said, to being a really great patch that cleaned up and made it to where it was just a whole lot more fun and playable and consistently playable.
Yeah.
And that's what that little difference is.
Yeah. I think if they made the reclaimer function as like both you and Major both mentioned, like the reclaimer is frustrating, and it has been frustrating for a while. And it's like, if you're trying to do an entire game loop and you're really hard focusing on getting this game loop done, you might also want to take some staff and pull them away from other projects and just fix the reclaimer.
Yeah.
Like just fix it the way it needs to, because it definitely needs
invisible fences, and there's so much in the reclaimer that I'm like, really? You added a new box. It can make out a 16 SCU box. That's all. You couldn't fix the fence at the bottom of the lip where you drop them down to make it to where it doesn't get hung up on stuff. Really, you overlook that one. Granted, it's invisible, but yeah, no.
And it's kind of highlighting some of that stuff. Major, your negative thoughts on 3.22. What is
I mean,
what is
my
the bad
main
stuff?
my main complaint, right? Or we touched it already, and now you just repeated it. I said earlier today. I said over on Discord to my friends. At least I don't have to write an issue report about this stuff. I can rant about it tonight on the captain's table. So it's a point I would like to make. And like you said, it's frustrating. My recommendation for people would be, if you have not tried the structural salvage / hull munching, try it. I think it's amazing. Even in its simplistic first iteration, I find it super relaxing and fun. And I'm one of the space dads who also just likes to fly around and pretend to do things that just an excuse to take my screenshots and go from A to B and say, oh, look at that, that's nice. So for me, that this first iteration of structural salvage is wonderful. I'd say if you want to do it in a reclaimer, don't do it by yourself. And that's the reclaimer is currently, in my opinion, soloable with the new buffers, right? You can solo a reclaimer, but not in its current state. There is still things that can go wrong with the reclaimer, and you want a bunch of friends around that can help you out. Like yesterday, I was flying with my friends, and my reclaimer did it get stuck? I don't know what happened. Something happened, and we just teamed up and brought an additional prize ship and loaded the boxes over to a C2, and then went on to try and sell, which failed utterly. But hey, for science, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be we're talking about the downsides here right now, but since I mentioned my biggest one already earlier, like my recommendation would be to avoid the reclaimer frustration. Solo, do it with a vulture and have fun, or do it with a reclaimer, but bring a bunch of friends who can support you, maybe with other ships, and then you can compensate if something goes wrong, and you won't end up being frustrated losing hundreds of thousands for chaining salvage missions and then losing because you're not able to sell, right? The frames, I think, I also experienced those yesterday at one of the outposts. Oddly enough, Voidy said, and I'm not sure if that's correct, that's the NPCs when they mass spawn and like endless spawning of NPCs. It looked a little bit like we started shooting them in order to save our frames. But they kept spawning. It looked a little bit like the zombie thing. What's the name of the series? The zombie thing, right? Yeah. But Walking Dead. I was like, yeah. This is seen from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And I've also experienced like the 1 frame per 3 seconds. Yeah. I thought maybe not as bad as the Pyro Outpost performance, maybe, but yeah, you want to slow down and you don't want to come in fast. I'm famous for crashing my ships into the ground anyway, even at 30 or 40 frames, but yeah, you want to slow down.
I should introduce you to my friend Panda. He's pretty good with that as well. He's the one we never let pilot. We're like, no, let's let Waha pilot. We'll trust him.
Yeah, I try not to fly into things that are loaded with precious cargo or stuff like that during our raid missions, but yeah, when I fly into the ground, that's usually it happens. Yeah, but that's other than that, negative things. Negative things. I couldn't think of a whole lot really.
I will say, for my negatives, I think this is going to sound weird, but it's both a positive and a negative. The changes they made to hover vehicles. The negative aspect of that change is a strange change to the shields, because it turns, by not having shields, it turns a lot of your hover vehicles into more death traps than actual functional vehicles, because to get speed, you have to be low to the ground. So the lower you are to the ground, the more speed you have. The problem is that the lower you are to the ground, the closer you are to everything else that's scatter terrained around every part in Star Citizen. And since every part of Star Citizen is a boulder field, it's very rarely are you going to be able to get to the low to the ground to be actually using them. So it makes it so while they've improved it, and I'll talk about it in the positives, I think it still doesn't have a lot of purpose. And I know they obviously made a lot of those changes because they released the X1, but it's a change that didn't make a lot of sense, and we're still kind of waiting for them to, as of now, there may have already been made statements, but to explain why it was chosen for, like, I'm sure it's gameplay purposes, but for what it is. But there was like a bunch of other vehicle changes, like speed changes, which are making a lot of sense. But the other negative I would say is that performance. Like, why put in all of these places if it's impossible to visit them? That oil rig is great on Hurston. That like floating oil rig. I love the aesthetics. I love it's great. It's just you go in and you get 3 seconds per frame, and
does it ever equal out?
It does eventually, but you have to kind of get through that initial like, and then it kind of it kicks back in, and you're able to get there. It's like almost like there's like a barrier you're going through. I think it's probably
2 times trying it, I blew up, and it takes so long to try to get back down there. I was just like, I'll figure it out later, and I haven't been able to get. We're only a couple days into the patch now, so it's. But I was trying to check it out beforehand, before the show. I'm like, cool, let me go through and try to figure out as much as possible, see if I can find anything that I don't like. And yeah, I tried twice, and so I didn't know if it ever actually evened out. It was just like dead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let me try that again. Dead. Yeah. Okay.
You have to go very slow, and you have to wait like 5-10 minutes for it to kind of go through and process, and then it lets you through. I think my guess is that it has something to do with the object container. There's something that it could be that these object containers are set up specifically for the new tech for things like server meshing or other stuff to it, and they just, because that's not in there, it's kind of freaking out. But it's pretty bad, and so it's one of those things like they have it in their trailer. Go see these new locations, and it's like I can't because you can't even get there. So. It feels like a wasted potential. And of course, obviously, as you all have been saying, is I don't have that personal experience, but that sounds like more making the Reclaimer worse is a feat, because that thing is already hot garbage when it comes to trying to do anything with that ship. So making it even harder to do work in it is just like, come on. It's supposed to be this fantastic, great addition. It's the reclaiming, like the salvage ship, and it's just so woefully bad. But I think that's my most negative. So I'm stepping 2 seconds, but major, your positives. What are some of the positives you've taken away from 3.22? I'll be right back.
So most important thing, I tried to hint at it earlier already. The feeling that I get. This patch kind of, for me, carries on the story that they kind of started with CitizenCon, right? Where they showed us a lot of stuff that's supposed to come, that's going to come, find its way into the game over the coming months, over the coming year, by the end of next year. For me, it shows there's progress that's on many fronts, if you will, right? Not only here's one new gameplay feature, here's a new vehicle. There's multiple things that progress on many in many areas. That's how I feel, and that's a huge positive for me. I think as someone who likes to play in like a who likes to do team-based stuff in Star Citizen, I think all these new additions is always a nice opportunity to try out new things together as a group and see how you can mix and match like a Mantis, a Reclaimer, well, not a Cutlass Blue right now, a C2 and a few other ships, and then what can you pull off? Whether it's industrial stuff, whether it's piracy light, wannabe piracy, or other stuff. I think that's nice when there's many things in different areas of expertise of sorts. Then to bring in people who are specialized maybe on space pew pew, other people are specialized on cargo running, and other people are specialized on quantum snaring. It's nice when there's new things for everybody involved, and then everybody gets their kick out of pulling something off together. Yeah, jump down locations, I guess positive, but just because I can tell my friends are excited about it. Personally, I don't care so much about jump down. But yeah, that's a cool thing to see those.
Ladies and gentlemen, positives.
Actually, one of the biggest positives, I think, which was a surprise to me because it's not that main function that we were talking about with the salvage, structural salvage on there, but the change that one of the changes that I've been most excited about with this update that was kind of snuck in there was actually the change to the mining system, and actually making it to where there was more preference on the different rock types and rock sizes. I know that Red Monster just did a video on this, I believe today, with the new kind of findings that he's been able to go through and find out, but making it to where it's easier for prospectors and people that are just kind of getting started into mining to be able to go through and find rocks that they can actually mine, as opposed to before, to where you'd be running out in a prospector and it'd be like, here's a great big field of rocks, and the one that actually has the thing that I'm looking for or something in there is 50 tons, and I'm in a prospector. There's no way I'm cracking it. So it was just impossible. So seeing that big change going over to the variety and like leaning towards more prospector size based in there, as opposed to more towards the Argo Mole, has been really, really nice. That's one of my big positives, that I've been really digging a lot of the changes that they've been implementing and putting through with respect to mining and the game. That's, for the longest time, has kind of been one of our fullest experiences as a loop. And every time they add something to that, it makes me a little bit more happy. Secondly, I would say is I have never, ever enjoyed Arena Commander until literally the last patch, 3.21.1, 3.21, and the stuff they started adding in there. And I went in there, I kept going and seeing Star Citizen streams on Twitch. I'm like, what the hell are they playing? Because they were playing an FPS, and I didn't realize that they had added these whole new game modes, or not even added, but just like made it to where there was just more fun, and people were actually playing them, and started getting into that. And so seeing a lot of the new stuff that's coming into 3.22, which I've looked at the screens. I haven't gone into anything yet because we've only had it for like 2 days. And
Gun Rush is great. Gun Rush is great.
It's so much fun. Yeah. And so but I want to get in there with my org tonight, if possible, and get messing around with the, like doing the Vandal Swarm with the multi-crew and being able to go through and kind of get in a hammerhead or something like that. And like that thing, that makes it one of the biggest frustrations that we all know of, is trying to get your people together. Like, I'm on Microtech, or I'm on Crew 01, or I'm on Arc 18 or Area 18, and getting together and saying, all right, let's go do something. And then somebody crashes out, or somebody goes through and has a blue screen, or whatever happens. But having it to where you can go through and say, sweet, we're all in the lobby, start, let's go through and try to get something coordinated or set up. That's huge. Like that's big stuff. And people that, like me, have never gone through and really messed with Arena Commander, or haven't paid attention to it in a while, definitely something to look at. As I have an hour, what can I do in an hour in Star Citizen that's going to help me in game eventually? Get together in Arena Commander. That's one of the biggest things that I can say is really blew me away with this patch. So yeah, that's my two big positives that I would say is the mining updates that they've done. I will say, as my kind of negative side of it, I really wish that they would have gone through and updated that a bit more with pricing, only for the sense that you have a salvage gameplay loop now that we're in 30 seconds. You can go through and be like, sweet, I just made $180,000. And in mining, you're like, awesome. Let me go all the way back, drop these off, refine them for 27 hours, and then I'll make money. And I have to pay for that cost. And there's cost for all the differences of my mining heads. And there's this. I really wish that they would have gone through and give a little bit more of a buff to some of the prices that you can go through and get to make it to where, I mean, at this point in time, there's no reason to even salvage. It's you go out there and you go, pew! I'll take that.
Yeah.
And I'll go sell it. And I get it that they're doing it for testing purposes and making it to where it's a very easy, approachable loop, and it will get more complicated in the future. But right now it's one of those things where I'm like, hey guys, you want to do mining? And they're like, we can make a lot more money doing salvaging. I'm like, I get that, but mining is fun. And it feels like you happen to kind of like beg people, let's go mining, guys. It'll be fun. So
I feel there. As a smuggler, like my job, what I mostly do is just find the best way of eking out a living by buying illegal, substances in one place and selling them in another. And you get you get some decent money, but it's like $50K for the amount of work that it would take even a miner like half the time to get that kind of money. On average, or now salvager. It's like,
it's hard. It's hard to go through and find that. Like, how are you going to argue with them when you're like, well, there's 4 of us. We can get in a reclaimer, and literally in like an hour we can make 10 million. And you're like,
It goes to show, doesn't it, that at the end of the day, and that's what I realize more and more. You have to find the gameplay loop that you personally enjoy the most, either solo or with friends. And if with friends or just frenemies, just find the people that you want to play the game with, that resonate with whom that gameplay loop also resonates. Or again, mix and match. Like I play with people who enjoy space PvP and piracy, which I part-time enjoy, part-time I'm super annoyed by. So sometimes I just need to go off on my own and take my screenshots. But I've been saying forever, the making of money is not what, at least me personally, not motivates me at all. And I saw someone in chat saying something similar, I think. So I think you need to compartmentalize of sorts. So if you like Nerdy Gentleman here is a huge enjoyer of the mining gameplay, I guess it can be frustrating then if people tell you, I'd love to go mining with you, but it's not profitable enough, right? Come along for, if you enjoy it, just ignore the rest that's there and just focus on the fun that you get out of your chosen gameplay loop.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Not sure if I'm making sense there.
No, you 100% make sense for that. It's that sort of thing, because I already have that group. I run an organization that's dedicated to finding the artifacts in game, various the metals and the ancient Hadesian relics and stuff like that. And you can't make any money off that. You make zero money off of that. You lose money doing it.
I'm aware of that org. My application is still pending, it seems.
Oh, because I'm terrible at accepting. Let me do that real quick.
Or so I've noticed.
The joke is that I never actually accept people until I actually do a stream of it. I'm like, all right, this is a thing I got to do.
The real reason why Major Star Stuff is here is like, now that I have you on this podcast.
It's fun actually that you mentioned it, because that's my new vision for my future self in the game is actually like, okay, what do I want? I was kind of I had a bit of an existential crisis post IAE with all my ships buying and putting in buybacks. Okay, what do I want to do in the game eventually at some point? And I realized, wait, I want to go see places, and the gameplay loop that I choose has to pay for the fuel for the restock and stuff, so make some money while I go from A to B. And it's probably not going to be like exploration in terms of discovering unknown places, but probably like expedition stuff, hunting down artifacts and putting them aboard my merchantman and selling them. That's kind of my fantasy bubble right now. So I was like, wait, Paul has an org that's kind of dedicated to similar stuff. I need to apply.
By the way, check again. While you were talking, I just finally
also the one last thing that I forgot is a positive. The new hair stuff, I always play as my character, but the one thing, and I'm surprised you didn't actually mention this, Star Stuff. Generally, whenever I go through and create a character, I go through and hit random, and the only thing I change is the hair, but they actually have bicked or shaved, like shaved, as opposed to cropped. And that's, I was like, yes, no, that's perfect, because there are 2 of us here, so we outnumber Paul.
I feel
Yeah,
represented now. Yeah, it's probably important to point out that it's still not all is implemented, right? My husband, for example, doesn't really feel represented because the a majority of the more diverse bunch of hairstyles has to be added. So yeah. Well, I'm glad that finally there's representation for proper bald people.
It always killed me that it was like the cropped or like cropped cut, and I'm like, shave it, like
zoop.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say that my positives is I'm surprised how good that hair is. That hair is surprisingly good. And with the changes that they're going to be making with beards and new character creator, the way they're doing the new character creator for next year, it looks great, and I'm looking forward to that. So this is the first step towards that. Is a big deal. So
definitely.
I will also say my positive is for the positives for the hover bikes is the X1 is finally out. Thank God it's finally out.
What was like 2014?
Yeah, 2014, 2015. I can't remember exactly.
No one knows what to do with it now that it's here, but it's out. Check next.
I did see it fits in everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it fits in everything. It's pretty nice. I like flying it. It feels pretty nice. I saw a video of Burks doing a comparison. He said it didn't handle very well. When he said it didn't handle very well, I almost spit out my water as I was drinking it. I'm like, what are you talking about, Burks? It's fine. It's great. Though to be fair, I stay away from the hover quad like it's the plague, because I just don't like that thing. But for those of you who don't know, there are two vehicles in the game which I sit here and go like, CIG, you have no excuse. This is why these aren't in game. Which is one was the X1 and the other is the G12. Ironically, both Origin vehicles, but everything else, there's like, I can accept some sort of CIG being like, well, we need to do this before we can do that, or do this before that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll accept that, because that sort of stuff isn't in game yet, so that makes sense. But like the G12 and the X1 have been around forever, like 5-6 years, and haven't been put in the game. Just put it out. So that's out. Now that it's out and all three of them are out, I'm like, that's great. It's fantastic. And they did do some updates to make everything feel better. Like the bikes feel more tuned. They have their problems, but they feel like actual like speeder bikes now. They feel like that whole how you think they should feel when it comes to like the movie experience of, yeah, I'm going to be going at insane amounts of speed in places I probably shouldn't, and I'm going to have to worry about running into everything I see. But you get that sort of motorcycle feel to it, which feels nice.
Not that anyone does that, but it is there now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem.
I will say I love the effect that they changed a while back, because that was in 3.17 when they made it to where like they did the adjustment for the up. And that adds to that effect, because and it makes it feel like it without ever, like, none of us have ever actually experienced this in real life, obviously, but it makes sense to where you're like, yeah, the closer I get to the ground, the faster I should be going, and also the faster it feels. Because whenever I ride motorcycles, and whenever you have bikes that you sit up and you sit way back on versus the ones that you're crouching, you're like, your head's closer to the ground. There is obviously a difference in speed, but there is also that difference of the feel of the speed as well. Yeah. You know, if you're doing 60 in a big semi truck versus 60 in a low, car, it feels a lot faster when you're low to the ground. So I think that naturally goes there, makes it feel, even if you're only going, because I think the base level bike or whatever is like 50 or 60 meters per second for its like SCM hit speed or whatever. But when you're down close to the ground, it feels super fast, and it feels, and I guess that also depends on your field of view on there, but no, it feels really nice. And I'm glad that they introduced that back in 3.17ish with that adjustment for the heights, and making it to where I want to fly safe and not die immediately, versus let's push the limits. And now I don't think I've ever survived longer than like 10 minutes on any kind of hover vehicle.
Yeah.
So I'm just terrible whenever it comes to that. Like, I can fly any ship perfectly fine. Get me on a hover quad, or I haven't actually tested out the new bikes yet. I do want to test out the new bikes. But yeah, I got about a 10-minute timer before I randomly clip through some part of terrain that I was going way too fast on and explode dramatically.
Yeah. That's why it's kind of a positive and negative. It feels better. But why do you exist? And also, you're still a death trap. So, but on other positive ships, the Rambler, I love it. I feel like that should have been the base. The Rambler should have been the base, and
I will agree on.
The Cutter should have been the cargo variant. Like that.
Yeah,
it makes more sense. And I think the prices should have been like that. Like the for But I like it because it reminds me of the beta. Because like the beta that used to be the Mustang beta that was cozy, but it felt like a place you would live. It had a nice little like little couch you could kind of snuggle up on, and you had like a little screen you could look at. It was just kind of like relaxing because you kind of like had this sort of like lean sort of thing for it, and you got out and there was this little bed and there's a little kitchenette, and so it felt like, yeah, this is something someone would live in. It feels like I should see somebody in one of those. I'm talking about the old Mustang beta, like you'd see in those travel like videos on YouTube or TikTok, where like these people like, yeah, I'm living off the grid for the next 6 months, and it looks like a place someone you'd see someone do a vlog about. The current beta, however, looks like a prison cell, and so I hate it. And but if you look at the Rambler, the Rambler looks like a place someone would live in for a long period of time. And it's got the walking space, it's got chairs, it's got beds, it's got the places, it's got the amenities. It's like, this feels good. This feels right. So that's what I like about that. And of course, the Santokiai, it's not Santokiai, it's Santokiai. I think it's how it's said.
I'm not qualified to talk about Xi'an pronunciation.
Jail.
If only Jail were here. Jail would know.
Jail did a great one, which was a meme, which is if you say it the Santokiai, it means the ship that makes clothes. Versus it's the Santokiai, then it's the ship that creates genuine fear. So, So yeah, it's a little different, but for a ship that's called the ship that creates genuine fear, it sounds beefy, it sounds evil, and I like it. It feels, because like when you turn it on, it goes, and as you kind of pick it up to it, it has this sort of insect-like screech. So it's like a very angry cicada. Is what it sounds like, a chorus of very angry cicadas.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
It's a chorus of very angry cicadas that's about to explode. Like it's revving up for to just like as a bomb almost. It feels great, and it's bigger than the Hornet, but it moves like the Hornet. It's got all the sort of aspects of what I'd hoped for in the Santokiai that was supposed to be. So, and I'm, as much as it's kind of a slapdash attempt, I also think that the whole munching / whole vibrating / structural salvas. Yeah, the Thanos snapping, whatever you want to call it, that whole addition, I think, is a good peek into the future of what the gameplay is going to be like, which is nice. So yeah, I think honestly, I think overall the positives outweighed the negatives. But like I said earlier, I think this is kind of like a middling patch. It's a good patch, but it's not a great patch. But it did have the potential to be a great patch. And if, like they said recently, if 3.22.1 or .2 comes out with the new separation of the replication layer added to it, if that gets added with 3.22, like they said, I think that 3.22 as a patch family will be one of the better patches we've had probably in all of Star Citizen. If it's able to do what they hope it's able to do. Though that's still being tested right now, and from what I've heard, it's positive, but it's been mostly a positive in the sense of, it's not really much difference from what we have in live, but it's not crashing. So great kind of situation. So I don't know about that myself because I haven't tried it. Nerd Gentlemen, your overall thoughts of this, would you say recommend this for somebody who has been away for a while to come back and try?
So I'll start off with overall thoughts. I think that we're in a great spot, and this is kind of my caveat, right? So we're in a great spot in time where one with all of the information, all the information that was put out with Squadron 42 kind of coming through, and a lot of the teams coming back over. We're in this great spot in time to where we're just now. You got to think that the 3.22 patch, they were still not working at full capacity, that they are going to be starting, like more of those teams are going to be moving over that haven't already moved over from Squadron 42 team back over to the Star Citizen team. Yeah, that's going to be happening a lot more into the new year. That was actually some information that was put out. And so we're still going through and running off of I always call them the 10% team that came out with the 322 patch. I think that right now is probably one of the best times to be able to go through and come back in for, especially if you came over and if the last time you were kind of really in the game was 3.15, 3.16, 3.17 into that time frame. I feel like we're in a much, much better spot for stability and overall smoothness, not just in gameplay in general, but for bunker missions, for a lot of the stuff that's happening with the AI down there. Introduction of the new shipping containers and everything like that, the new gameplay loops, the functionality changes to a lot of the, and some of the UI changes. Right now is one of the best times to come back into it. Overall, I think that we're going to start seeing that spot to where the patches are going to seem much more mundane. And I really, really, really big air quotes around there, because if we're in true honesty, if the replication layer comes out and it's exactly like we're playing right now, except that the bugs don't happen, except that the 30Ks don't happen, and there's a bit of time frame in there, that's one of the, like, people will, I think, will be upset if it comes out and it's just even across, and in the best case scenario, like nothing changes. It feels exactly the same. I thought this was supposed to be a huge patch. That's incredible, because for people that are brand new and didn't experience 3.18,
yeah,
I had a buddy that literally for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, couldn't even log into the system to experience all the hell that we were going through because he couldn't get into. So right now is a great time to come back in. I think we're at a really, really stable point. Yes, I agree. The small little things that could have made it a better patch, like could have made it from a mundane patch. And I will completely agree with you, Paul, that where it came at was middle of the road. It could have been a great, an almost exceptional patch if it would have been for the small little things that, like, oh, you introduced that, cool. Flesh it out a bit more, make sure we're not getting the frame drops, make sure you're not doing this. But if that's the worst that we're having right now, especially if you've been in for a while or been away for a while, that sounds like an amazing set of circumstances. If that's the worst that we got, was like, yeah, there's some things that need to be fixed. It's not game breaking. It's not half the population can't even log in. And I think we're in a great spot. Overall, I'm really, really happy with the end of year patch, and I would love to go through and see getting hot fix done for. I'll deal with the reclaimer workarounds, but get it to where I can actually go and experience some of those new places, those outposts, and I'm happy. I'm a happy camper.
Major, your overall thoughts, and would you suggest people come back to play 3.22 if they've been away?
I'll start with the last point you made, nerdy gentleman. So the reclaimer, I mean, I get it. It's different teams. It's a different bunch of resources that would have to be allocated in order to get the reclaimer to up-to-date standard and then to fix those things. So I'm willing to just put that aside and then exclude that from my 322 experience of sorts. I think we forgot one negative, and that's if you like missiles, torpedoes, or bombs, you want to stay away. Because I only realized that last night. I have a retaliator, and I only learned yesterday that I'm not sure if it's for regular missiles as well. I think it is, but for bombs, and so A1 is useless this patch, I suppose. And retaliator, you can dump fire the torpedoes from like 10 meters away. That works. But they, after, I think, after flying 500 meters or something, just despawn or just disappear right into nothingness. So that's not ideal. That's probably something that they want to hotfix fairly soon. But I think in general, with everything that I mentioned earlier, this is, in my opinion, a great time to either get back into the game if you've been away for a while, or even to get into the game. Right? There's worse times. I mean, other than that, free flights are usually the times when you want to get into the game to try it out. But I was one of the people, nerdy gentleman you mentioned, who last year, right, with 3.18. I wasn't able to log in and play for weeks. And if CIG ever find my rants on the internet that I posted when that was, my chances of ever getting hired by them are minus 500. So this is, as you said, this could have been worse. This could have been an end of year patch that could have made the game unplayable for a lot of people. So I think it's the servers feel stable most of the time. Yes, we've got those glitches. We've got the low frame rates with the outposts. Those will be sorted out eventually. And find if you. I think it's a great time to be playing the game over the course of the next few weeks, and just play around with the new stuff and see what hot fixes they throw at us in the coming weeks or after the holiday break. Yeah, but I'd say yes. It's
awesome. Yeah, I would say, and I see someone's trying to ask me this question, which we'll get back to here in a moment. So stick around, Nicolette. You've asked me this question before, so stick around, and after we get through the break, and I'll talk to you about it. But because I think I've explained this answer before, but but overall, I think I'm the same. I think if you've stayed away since 3.18, 3.22 is a inoffensive patch to come back to, and there's so much been added that you don't realize. Because and I say this because I bring up this question. I do it usually when we do these kind of retrospectives or these review patches or for these review episodes. But I know people who only check on Star Citizen once a year. They buy Star Citizen and then just like they go off and do whatever they want to, and then the end of the year or sometime they're like, come back. And you'd be surprised how many people who are watching this video right now who are like, yeah, I've tried Star Citizen and 6 months or year, 2 years. This it's popped up in my recommended feed. Let me watch through this video and see what they think, that kind of stuff. So, so I would say try it out if you haven't, because there's a lot of stuff that's changed. And I also really and I could be wrong. I'm not going to say this is entirely true, but I feel like this is an indication of CIG finally getting ahead of the ball instead of behind the ball when it comes to releasing patches, because they released it a week before they went on break. And there's only one thing that I can remember that was removed from the patch, which was it was removed from 3.21, which is in change, which is the thing they're testing right now, which is the replication layer. Like, so I think the cloud stuff's in the game. It could have been removed, but yeah, it's good. So, and as I say this, and of course, chat, it never fails whenever I do this. It's just one of those weird things where whenever you say something positive about Star Citizen, there's like 7 people who'd be like, I had the worst experience in the universe. The game literally doesn't run for me. I get 2 FPS. When I log in, someone comes into my room, punches me in the face, and then Chris Roberts comes down and pees on me every single time I play. So this is a terrible game. I hate all of you for saying positive things because my experience was negative. And so I get it. Your experience is valid. I'm sorry Chris Roberts pees on you. But at the same time, like, my experience is not that. So just keep that in mind when we say those sorts of things.
I mean, it's fair, right? It's been one of those days for me. Like, if you had asked me, if you'd asked me 4 hours ago, I ended a Discord chat today. I was like, yeah, I'm not sure. I might just extend my break and go back to playing Age of Empires 4 for the next few weeks. You know, when you're unlucky and the bugs hit you and you feel like, okay, it's being thrown all at me and everybody else is having fun, it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But if you look at the larger picture and of the experience of the majority of people, I feel like it's a fairly stable experience with exceptions, obviously, with people experiencing no missions working for them, losing their reclaimers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but the overall experience feels fairly stable and makes one hopeful that, as you said, they're finally getting ahead of the ball.
Yeah,
one thing I would really like to see them do is the efficiency core problem. I know there's still a large number of people in the community. One of my buddies has one of the new processors that has the efficiency cores in there, and he gets one frame every few seconds because of it, because the workarounds are too much of a pain with the, if you have the multi-threading and some of those are as efficiency cores. That's one thing that I know, that's the only thing that I've seen consistently. He came through and tried the patch night before last. He messaged me. He's like, yep, still doing the same thing. So I guess I'll wait this one out until they get that fixed. And I'm just like,
delete your shaders, children. Delete your shaders.
Yes, if you don't know about that,
he's gone through the whole spot.
No, I'm sure he has. Yeah,
but it was just one of the things with specifically. I guess there's a certain level of Intel processors that have this efficiency core system or whatever in there, and apparently the Star Citizen game does not like it at all. And there are workarounds. He's like, I was able to go through and get it to work a bit better, but then it knocked it, instead of like one frame every few seconds to this. And it's really frustrating on those sides, because it's one of those ones where I've been preaching Star Citizen to him for 11 years. And he's like, all right, I'll try it. And then he gets it and he's like, it runs like crap. And I'm like,
yeah.
But you see it running on mine, right? He's like, no, yours runs. How are you getting like 80 frames a second? And I'm like, it's gotten way better. And he's like, yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, build a new computer.
Yeah, I was going to say the caveat is that Star Citizen is still an early access game. It's still an alpha. Yeah. As much as people hate that term, as much as people say, it's like an excuse. It's like it's still true. Like it's just what it is. So, but with that all being said, I would say that if you've stayed away from Star Citizen for a while, and you have the game, it's 100% worth coming back in and trying it out for all the stuff that's changed. So,
absolutely.
All right. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. And we're going to move on to the question and answer session. Thank you so much for Major Star Stuff and the Nerdy Gentleman. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, you'll just hear me cut straight into it. And if you're watching this live, then you'll get to hear all of the in-between conversations we have. So stick around for that. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, so I'm going to answer this beforehand so we can get to this. I really hope you're still here, Nicolette, because I think you've asked this question before, which is what are they going to do about ejecting an atmosphere? They don't know yet, but they've said that they don't want to do parachutes because not every planet has atmosphere, but they don't know yet. My guess is they'll do some sort of suicide burn system where you have like a backpack where when you eject and you're in atmosphere, as you fall, it'll automatically fire up like a jetpack sort of thing that will arrest your fall, and then you'll be out of fuel sort of thing. So, but that's going to require the new systems that they're building for like efficiency and inefficiency, like resources for ships and stuff, and suits and stuff like that. So. Welcome back.
Why, thank you.
Jump belts like Starfield. I don't think we'll see jump belts like Starfield though, honestly, because like that's too much freedom of movement. CIG will definitely want to have some sort of restriction on it. I think you may have something that'll allow you to traverse taller terrain with like say like a quick burst of like a jump pack, but it'll probably use a lot of fuel. But they don't have that system in place yet, so. And for those who are wondering about efficiency, I had a quick story about efficiency. I actually had absolutely horrible efficiency. Like it just things were weird for a long time where like it shouldn't have been. It was improved, but not by much. And I was like, this is just the way Star Citizen is. And then I had a situation where just like Star Citizen wouldn't launch, so I had to delete Star Citizen from my like entire computer and reinstall from scratch. And when I did that around 3.19, it ran so much better, and there were so many all the problems I had before were gone. I was like, what happened? And I think sometimes you just got to delete your old game and completely install it brand new. I just don't know what's going on with that. So you have the option for the launcher to download and install a preview channel. Is it worth doing? If you want to help testing it out, sure. But the preview channel right now is basically they're testing out the what is it called? The replication layer. So they've separated the replication layer to a separate instance, and so they're testing it out, streaming in and out of the game right now. So far, it's been good though. So it's a tech preview, yeah.
I had to go through and clear out a lot of my. I between the tech preview channel, the PTU, the ePTU, and live, I was like, okay, that's like collectively like 460 gigs.
Yeah.
Just cleaned that out a little bit, and I kind of limited myself. Like, if there's something that I really want to go through and be a part of testing, and then I'll go through it and install that. Copy the stuff over into the EPT folder or into the tech preview folder, and do it that way. But other than that, I keep them clean because half a terabyte's not a small amount of space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a huge amount of space because I have just 500 gigs of RAM. Or no, RAM, 500 gigs of RAM. 500 gigs of space on for Star Citizen alone, and it's like it fills up quick. So yeah. I need to constantly use some of those things. Are you back here, Major?
I'm back. Sorry
Awesome.
for keeping you waiting. I'm the slow one today, sorry.
You're good. All right, so I'm going to move over to guests again. Welcome back to the question and answer session with Major Star Stuff and Nerdy Gentlemen. We're going to jump right into it on the questions. We have 18 questions, and these are all questions given to the chat, taken from chat. The first one is from Nova42, who asks, how do you think tractor beams and master mode's nav mode dropping shields while interact? What? How do you think tractor beams and master mode's nav mode dropping shields will interact? Maybe. Not much. I don't think you're going to be able to tractor beam a ship that is in nav mode because it's going super fast. Because then the only way you'll be able to catch them is going in nav mode, and then you'll have to turn off your tractor beams.
Do you have access to weaponry systems while in nav mode? Yeah, no. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's all shut down. The only thing that's working is your engines when nav mode, and then apparently, according to the one of the SFX artists the visual effects artists who worked for the stuff, who got poached by another company about 8 months ago, put a lot of his work in progress stuff up on his YouTube, and that got thrown all over the place. And a bunch of people were like, okay, and he answered a bunch of questions about what the plan was when he was there. And one of the things was that you have to come to a complete stop in order to quantum. So, but if you quantum boost, you can move. So you'll have to go to a complete stop and turn off all your systems except for your quantum drive, and then go through, which sort of matches what they were planning on. But even if that's not fully true 100%, I think it's still going to be patched. A lot of that will happen. So I don't think you'll have them interact too much. I think if the question is more, what do you think will be trolls running around? It's like, I think it'll be difficult to snare people with those sorts of things. So,
But tractor beam is a valid point to theorycraft about, right? If weapons are off in nav mode or in quantum boost, right? Then I mean, it must be functioning in nav mode, because if you're tractoring a ship
True.
and then you go to you're supposed to leave it behind or what? So
yeah, that's
right,
true.
but
You're
the
right.
only ship that would be the SRV at this point in time,
Oh,
because if you
yeah.
have other vehicles that do have tractor beam weapons, such as the Caterpillar and everything like that, generally, I'm thinking of it just as the Vulture. Do I have a cat in here?
I think
Sorry, I have 3 cats, and I made sure one of them wasn't in here. But with tractor beam, like with the Vulture, right? If you have your arms out to go through and use the tractor beam and you're trying to hold on to it, as soon as you go through and do anything else, like you go out of mining mode, it's going to go through and close them back up. So you're not going to have that. So it would be only for the SRV. And so I think if you have that limitation of like a specific tow ship has that functionality, and you wanted to do, say, piracy kind of stuff, obviously you're going to have a ship that's going to be able to go through and pull out quantum or something like that in the first place. But I don't see that as being too much of an issue. Now, the one question is that the ships like the Mantis and stuff like that, they can go through and stop people from jumping
Quantuming.
and pull them and
Yeah.
quantum and stuff like that, but they can't go through and disable the shields unless you have an ion weapon that can go through and take out the shielding and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I guess, is there anything that they have set in place to where, is there any vehicles at this point in time that go through and can lock a person out of their shields outside of weapon damage? And that's where I can see them going through and having something like that possibly getting introduced in the future, of saying, oh, this is a spot where we can make some sort of ship that would sell money because they'll be able to go through and take people's shields offline right quickly.
I mean, other than the EMP, I think EMP kind of does that, but
that's true. The EMP would do that.
But yeah, and y'all pointing out that fact that you do have to tow through quantum, so that definitely has to be able to be active during quantum, which is a good point. But I think the way the SRV works, you have to be in front of them, unless you're flying backwards at max speed, which I don't think is going to be possible with the way the thrusters are created on the SRV, and that'd be even weirder. At that point, though, it's just like it's a lasso effect. Like you manage to lasso somebody going, 12,000 meters per second, or no, it's 1,200 meters, 1,200 meters, 1,400 meters a second with your SRV.
12 million kilometers.
Yeah, you're moving at incredibly high speeds. You earned it. You've earned that capture, because at the same time they can just turn off nav mode and their shields go back up, and then the tether breaks. So, it's definitely going to require some skills for that one, though. So, but I don't think it's going to interact that much. All right.
Next question.
Yes, Kavion asks, has CIG gone on their Christmas break yet, or still working? I think they're still working until next week, but I could be wrong. Okay, so this is because we've kind of knocked down some of these were like really early question stuff. I'll ask this question. This is not a question I usually don't try to skip this one because it's kind of a filler one. But since we've got gentlemen here, I'll start with you on this one. Nova asks, what was your first ship? What is your favorite ship? And what is your dream / holy grail ship? So what was the first ship you had? What's your favorite ship, and what's the ship that you're looking forward to, sort of thing, or something you'd want to see?
I think I've been a backer since September 2013, and I think at that point in time, there was only a couple ships that were really available to choose from at a price point, and I think it was like $65 or $70 at the time. And I think it was the Mustang Alpha.
Mustang Alpha.
It had to be right. It's been like 10 almost. Well, it's been over 10 years. So, but I want to say it was Mustang Alpha was my first ship that I went through and backed. The first one that I was actually really, really, really excited about was actually the Prospector, because I don't mind space pew-pews. At the time, we were doing a lot of stuff in Elite Dangerous. I used to do an Elite Dangerous trade report every other day to go through and kind of like do trade routes and stuff like that. And so we were doing a lot of stuff with trade routes and routing and stuff like that. And buddy of mine, Panda, was always really big into like doing the space pew-pews and the fights. I like the industrial gameplay loop. So whenever they announced the Prospector and saw that come in a game, never was really super excited about the styling. I'm not a big fan of Myst. I'm a Drake fanboy through and through. I just love their minimalist and industrial. Like, it gets my jollies. I love that the cat is a gigantic space barge with engines. Give me more of that. But we'll fan out about Drake another time. But that loop, that gameplay loop, was the one that got me really excited, and I loved whenever they did the expansion for the Mole. So first one was definitely the Mustang. The first one I was really excited and like give me, here's my money, take it, was the Prospector. Dream ship, all in all. I did a live stream a while back about the Drake Super Freighter. I think it was called Drake Super Freighter Speculator live stream. I love the cat. I think the cat is a great ship. It's by far my favorite ship in the game, even though it's one of the oldest, like ships to be able to go through and have any kind of mass storage or anything like that on there, and is quickly outdone by literally everything else, right? Hercules or the whole series now is ungodly. But I love the Drake aesthetic. I love their simplicity. We don't care. Oh, you want that to be pretty? Go buy another ship. This just gets the job done. And I with all of their new knowledge, the stuff that came down as like leaks of really, really early stuff, which we don't even know if they're looking at any of that stuff anymore, for like the Drake Super Freighter that was supposed to be like on par with a Hull C kind of level, gets my jollies. And I am so you don't even understand how excited whenever I started seeing that, and like seeing like much larger, like 16 or 32 SCU like boxes looking like they're on the back of a docking station at a Walmart or an Amazon like shipping container system. I'm like, yes, make it happen, because to me, it's not even that exciting of a gameplay loop. It's cargo, but the possibilities for other gameplay loops to have that involved, that's where I'm excited about. And it's one of those ones, we don't even have an announcement or a name for the ship. It's just one of the, like, Drake Super Freighter sounds good to me. Let's be happy about it.
I think
I know that's kind of a
Drake
cop out.
Supermax or something like that is what it's supposed to be.
Is that what they're going to call it?
Yeah.
As long as Super's in the name, I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, I'd call it straight up.
Mine.
If it's a great freighter, then it's got to be a galleon, the Drake galleon, to match the nautical terms for everything else. So that's what at least I'd go for. But
I don't see Drake going through and being like, we should match the nautical terms.
Yeah.
No, they're going to go through and be like, what sounds awesome and makes it to where pirates may or may not want to buy it, because we don't necessarily want to go through and support
the Drake
them.
Super Caterpillar, or super, the super hauler. That just
No, so that's my vote there. I'm a Drake boy. That's why Drake Nelson was my first kind of like character that I made for the songs, because he was born in the heart of a caterpillar.
There you go. Oh no, so Drake is as a
getting late, right? 2 a.m.
Shush.
For some people.
I don't know why I just yawned. All right. Major, your thoughts though. What is your favorite? What was your first ship? What's your favorite ship? And what's your dream Holy Grail ship?
So I had to go back into my hangar and double check, but I was remember correctly. So my first starter pack, my first ship was a 100i. Out of all manufacturers, I have very fond memories of the 100 series. I upgraded it fairly fast to the 135C, which I still think is a great little runabout, because it's one of the ships that you can call at any outpost at the smallest pads. It's a fun thing to fly around with. The problem being that I've since realized that the Origin design and language and approach to overall stuff is not what resonates with me. Frankly, I just hate anything that's luxury, over top stuff. So Origin is not for me. Goodbye 100i, goodbye 400i, which I had for a long time. But yeah, 100i was my first ship. My favorite ship, I want to say the Freelancer series or the Freelancer Out of all the freelancers, the DER, because it sits at a sweet spot for me in terms of size. It's not it's not a small ship, it's not a large ship. It's possible to solo. It gives me that home away from home feeling once it gets a gold pass. It's obviously in a lot of need. Arguably, it's the one ship that even more than some other ships, it needs so much love. But I think it has so much potential of a home away from home ship for people who are maybe not Drake people. And a ship around that size. And yeah, so but I'm actually going to say my favorite ship is the Hammerhead. And that is because the Hammerhead was the first big ship that I bought from in-game money when when was it 317 point something, when we all were millionaires because they gave us so much money and then removed some or whatever. I bought a Hammerhead in game, and the Hammerhead always gives me those StarCraft battlecruiser vibes. I'm not sure if it's the I love the bridge where it's located. I love to solo my Hammerhead and goof around with it. So it's just my favorite ship. Not that I'd see myself running it in the long run in its proper role, but right now I think it's a really cool ship. And then my dream ship in the future is, I should probably say, the Banu Merchantman. And I've got a Banu Merchantman, but I'm not sure if I'll end up, I mean, now that I'm part of your org, if we end up using it to sell those artifacts, who am I to argue? But I have the CCU to the other ships. So my dream ship is still, I have a lot of hope for the Perseus. And I know some people say it's overpriced for what it actually does, but it gives me those naval battleship vibes. Out of all the ships, that's the one where I get those vibes. You know, a little bit, if you know Battleship Yamato, the anime, or even the movie, like the early 20th century naval Earth battleships, and just that's just so cool. I want to have a Perseus, so I'd say that's my dream ship.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm not going to answer it because I've answered it every single time. But the short version is 315p Drake, the Cutlass Black,
and Redeemer, right?
It swaps between the Cutlass Black and the Corsair. I think the Corsair is now the current one, just because in preparation for Pyro and distance. And my dream ship has been and always will be. I don't know. Actually, because I actually don't know. Because I was going to say it has been always would be the concept idea I had of a Crusader police ship, but then I'm a bounty hunter, so I don't really care about that. I was like, well, what is my dream ship? Like, oh, it's the Corsair, but the Corsair's out. I'm good. I don't got any more. I'm done. This is fine. This is great. The Cuddy Purple. There we go. That's the actual one. The Cuddy Purple. But my dream ship is a Cutlass that is a miniature Banu Merchantman, where it's just you have the middle instead of having it being a cargo bay. It's just like a shop that you can sell something in. That is the Drake
taco truck. There you go.
Yeah, the taco van. Yeah, the Drake taco van. You know. So next question comes from Del Ener, who asks, what kind of music, I think this is for you nerd gentlemen, what kind of music would go well with the new Cutter Rambler? I currently play Ramblin' Man on loop while I fly.
That's so the Rambler. So I with the Rambler, and I want to kind of bring this back to a small amount. I really agree with what you said earlier, that the Rambler should have been the first Cuddy that was out, or the first Cutter.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a hard one. Because it's been Cuddy forever. And then but yeah, the first Cutter that should have been out, and then the expansion with having 4 SCU of cargo should have been for the regular Cutter, should have been the upgraded version. But I love, there was a comment that I read or saw somewhere, and it was like the Winnebago, or like the Cutter is like the van that you convert over to a thing, and then the Rambler is like the RV for Star Citizen. So I always think of it like, anytime I think of like Winnebagos or RVs, or whatever, I always think of like hippie songs and just that chant. Like, yeah, like in my head, it's just like the Rambler would make a great entrance into like Forrest Gump whenever he's trying to go see Gene.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you should go back to Greenbow, Alabama, or whatever, and
Yeah.
just like takes off and in his Rambler. But you should definitely, not as a plug, but if you listen to Ramblin' Man, check out Our Way of Life. It's definitely a mining song, but I think it fits right in that vibe to where, like, yeah, I could totally see that one just like blaring.
Yeah. Well, people are doing
going
that
in
stuff.
the Rambler.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, I do really like the Rambler. I still feel that whenever they introduced the Cutter as a starting vehicle, they really should have reevaluated the other starting vehicle packages.
Yeah.
Because I think they knocked it out of the park. And not just because I'm a Drake fanboy and it's a Drake ship. I think it's just a really great starting vehicle package. And I'll keep it there.
Yeah. There we go. Major Star stuff. What would you listen to with a Cutter Rambler? What music goes well with it?
So yeah, the problem I have with Origin on the one end of the spectrum, I have with Drake at the other end of the spectrum. So it's Origin is not Drake is not what makes me want to go on that adventure and stay out for too long. It's a convenient enough design that keeps me alive, but would I want to spend weeks or even months or even years surrounded by Drake aesthetics? I'm not so sure, to be honest. So what music? But if it were the only ship left and I'd had to in order to survive, I mean, country music.
Yeah, I guess it kind of works with that. Yeah. All right.
I will say the Rambler is the only ship that I would see an 8-track player. I could see it actually in there.
It needs dice. It needs dice on the fuzzy dice. Yes. All right. So let me go through some of these because actually because it's a road trip vehicle. It's a trip you take. It's a vehicle you take on roads, like you travel around. So there's of course On the Road Again by Willie Nelson was a good choice for that one. I've Been Everywhere by Johnny Cash. Of course, you could do the classic Proclaimers, 500 Miles. I'm gonna be. I'm trying to look at some of these other ones. Take It Easy by the Eagles. Let's see. Radar Love. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Africa would work too. I think Africa is a good vibe.
I think that works at every.
Yeah, it works
I'm
everything.
mining
Yeah.
Africa.
Yeah.
Bounty hunting Africa.
Let's see. Of course, John Denver, Take Me Home. Country Road. That's definitely a good one. Maybe some Bruce Springsteen with like Born to Run. I'm trying to see what else is there. Of course, you could also Little Red Corvette doesn't really work for that one. It might be there, but yeah, those are some examples for you. All right, it's a road trip vehicle. So any kind of song you listen on a road trip, that's what you'd listen to because it is. It's designed to just kind of fly around. It's not really. It's not a purpose. So
Gina and ZZ Top Lagrange. That's always a good song.
Always a good one.
I think, but I think that's too much of a badass song for the Rambler. Not to take anything away from the Rambler.
Yeah,
but that's a let's go bounty hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Horse with No Name is a good one. Oh gosh, what is the good trucking songs would work for it as well a little bit. So, all right. Steve That Answer asks, how do you feel about the SRV being in the tractor beam turret view and not being able to move the ship? I think it's a bug. If you have to have the tractor beam, you have to be in the view or is it?
No, I don't, because I always just get an approximation, spin myself around, clip it, and go. I'm never in the tractor beam view to do anything with it. I just kind of approximate my rear end and say, "Yep, got it," and you can tell when it's caught. So I don't think I've ever. I'm not sure what he's referencing to there.
Oh yeah, okay. Major Star Stuff put us in the chat as well. Another good one. I actually like that song, Space Junk. Devo 4 it's a fantastic song. If you watch the season 1, I think. Yeah, it's episode 1, season 1 of The Walking Dead. The song at the very end, where it kind of pulls out from where where I forget his name, the main character, the sheriff is. When you pull him back, when he pulls back and the song plays, and you just kind of like you get to see the whole thing. That's Space Junk. It's really good. But yeah, no, I think it's maybe the question is with the SRV is like it's is that you can't move when you're in the turret mode, and I think you think you can still move when you're in the turret mode too. So I don't know.
Maybe that's something that's different between having joysticks. So I have the VKB Gladiators, and so I have noticed there are some things like if I'm doing it with KBM, it's a lot more difficult to go through and do stuff. So maybe that, yeah, I guess I'm just not familiar with it because, like I said, every time even whenever I was messing around in turret mode and going through and clicking on stuff when I was first learning, I was still able to go through and move my joysticks to have movement of the ship. So yeah, I'm not sure.
All right. If you can't move, it's probably a bug of some kind. But all right, Steve the Answer asks, have you noticed the X1 looks like a Star Trek phaser? Which one? Like we're talking old school phaser? Yeah, kind of like a TNG or not a TNG phaser. No, but I guess it kind of does. Major Star Stuff as another Trekkie.
Yeah, I think I reacted to that immediately when they asked that an hour ago. I said I totally cannot unsee that now, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know
which generation of phaser, but yeah, I get if you show me that and say it looks like a phaser, my brain just fills in the gaps and then.
I don't know what level.
TOS Type 1, Mistral 19K says. TOS Type 1, Type 2. Sorry. Yeah.
Type 2. Yeah. I don't know how much of a Trekkie you are, a nerdy gamer, but
I was TNG. I whenever I was growing up, we had the one like channel that usually came in, and they always had TNG on there, and so I really enjoyed it during that series. I did like a lot of the later, or I guess more recent movie remakes. I think they did well for first couple, and then they kind of lost me again. I haven't watched any of the new series. Wife is actually a bit more of a Star Trek watcher than myself, and so I'll watch them with her occasionally. But I have found, I don't know if it's in my later years in this age, but it's harder for me to get into series than it used to be. So yeah, that's about where I'm at. Like I never had any fault or anything against any of the series, but it was one of those ones where it was, if I could catch it, I would watch it. If not, I didn't stick around too much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one in terms of like you just have to kind of, with series it's hard to get into because it's so much of an investment now. It's no longer just like I can just pick it up in the middle and understand everything. So
right. Well, and there are so many series that come out now. Everybody's like, "Have you seen this series?" And you're like, "What's that on? What streaming service do I have to have exclusive rights to be able to do that?" So I give up.
Yeah, to be honest, I've been giving up on that like a few years back. I don't know what's the last contemporary show that I really like subscribe to, and we're currently doing a glorious rewatch of Battlestar Galactica, which is probably why I'm flying so many Aegis ships right now, like Retaliator and and Reclaim.
I get what you're talking about. Yeah. I actually don't watch a lot of TV anymore. Like what I do is I'll wait until I have time, which rarely happens, and then I'll just sit down and just binge watch an entire series in like 3 days. Just won't sleep. I'll just watch or just, but I don't really have that kind of time anymore. I'm like, I got so many other things, and sleep is such a valuable commodity these days. So, All right, TK Rex asks, I would like to see a hole scraping beam size doubled and or update increased. Do you think we're optimizing ourselves out of fun, or is this something that needs to be solved? I think we need to keep things in mind that not all of the aspects of salvage is in yet. For instance, one of the big things that what's probably going to happen with salvage is you're probably going to have to process all your salvage in a refinery before you sell it. You probably won't be able to raw dog it like you can right now, just because they probably won't sell well. But if you process it, it can be processed into other things. You can process it into probably finished materials, maybe like commodities or construction equipment or whatever. That like there'll actually be some sort of final product that you can then turn it into and then sell it for a higher profit. But the raw material probably isn't going to be like that forever. So I don't know. What do you think, nerdy gentlemen?
I mean, I'll agree with that in the sense of kind of what you were talking about on there. So we actually did a comparison scientifically multiple times going through and taking down either hammerheads or the Hercules M2s, I think is the one that you can usually get on some of the missions. And in both the Reclaimer and also in the Vulture, and going through and doing tests with having 2 trawlers for the Vulture, 2 abrades. The cinches are useless, don't do it. But going through and breaking down the times that it would take to go through and do the stuff. And because there's obvious logic in the amount of power that can go into that ship. Like if you're in the Vulture, just using that as a standard example, if you go in the Vulture and you say, sweet, this is how much power I have going through the wiring through the system that's able to go through and put out towards these, whether I have the trawlers or the abrades on there. Again, we'll leave the cinches out. You're able to go through and focus that energy. And that's why you see that there is actually an increase in the amount of efficiency that you can do. And that's a 30-second to make an SCU box versus 35 seconds, is because that same amount of power is getting split up over that time. And I know some people can probably say, well, that's looking too far into it. They wouldn't do that. They have fuses that they're going through and going to be introducing with the engineering system. So it absolutely makes sense that in a Vulture size ship or a Reclaimer size ship or whatever ship you're looking at on there, and not just basing on specifically on salvaging, but also looking into the power consumptions of the Prospector versus a Mole on their laser and mining heads, and extractors. There's a limit to what can go through and be put out for there. So if you go through and have something to where it increases up in the size, that's why you lose speed and efficiency, even though you're increasing it exponentially with going to a 6-meter diameter versus a 3.5-meter diameter versus for the abrades and the trawlers. Sorry, that might have been a bit too much into what they're saying. But the point of it is you have to go through and look at the systems that go back behind it, because that's exactly what somebody at CIG is going to be doing, is saying, well, you can't do that because the power module that you have put on there, if you want to go through and make it to where you can get a 12-meter diameter focusing laser on there, you're going to have to back it up to something. And to go through and run one of those on a Vulture, you're not going to have the power system to it to where you can make it. You're still going to come out to where it's going to be like, oh, it's going to take 35 seconds or 40 seconds to get one SCU. You're not going to gain what you think you're going to gain. It just might look prettier running across the screen because it's taking up the whole side of a ship. Also, if you go with 12 meters, that's gigantic. That's the only thing you're going to see that on is on a massive salvaging operation ship that can go through and take out capital ships.
Yeah. And I think you also just bring up the point is that there's a lot of systems in place that aren't ready yet. Like what you just described is the resource system, which isn't in game yet and will be at some point. And a lot of those aspects are going to be in there. Like you have to shut down your ship in order to quantum jump or to get into the nav mode. That's a lot of those because it's not enough power to run all of the systems at once. And I know some people are upset about that because they're just like, well, why would you build the ship which you couldn't run all the systems with the power? And the answer is video game, like video game logic. If you want me to give you an actual logic, it's because cheap. It's cheaper to build to put a small power plant into a small frame, and that can't run everything at once. Because you don't need to run everything at once. Who runs everything at once? You turn on all your lights on your entire house and then run all your electronics at the exact same time? No, of course you don't. It would probably be terrible. You might blow a couple of circuits like that.
I used to have an old Mazda where as soon as I turned the headlights on, the AC went off. So I'm just saying, like, we have that in real life.
Yeah,
that one was probably a glitch in the system, but literally it's like turn the headlights on and it was like, boo.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's how the system
Just how
works.
this works.
So they introduced that in the game. I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Because,
Major. Major, what do you think? Do you think that they should just make things like faster, bigger and faster, or is that just kind of optimizing at the details, the nuance out of the game?
I'm not sure if there's any need for making it bigger and or faster at this point, to be honest. Nerdy Gentleman and we had a nice conversation about the current state of salvaging compared to mining. You'll remember like 2 or 3 years back, decades back, 2 or 3 weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you shared your point of since you're a huge mining enthusiast about your vision for how the eventual future iterations of salvage gameplay might end up turning out, like in terms of complexity and parallels between how mining developed from when it got first introduced to where it's now. And it's, in my opinion, it's highly likely that the salvage gameplay loop will go through a similar development, right? Personally, I wouldn't mind, but that's just me, and it's just a thought experiment again. Like if we think about a game, and Paul, you talked about it earlier when you touched the marketing topic, right? For a game that needs to attract a vast and diverse target audience, I personally wouldn't mind if there were different industrial gameplay loops that are targeted towards different kinds of people and what they appreciate. Just like you have PvP combat, where some people, it's the only thing they ever do. Other people want an opt-in and out or toggle on and off switch. You will be able to avoid PvP to a certain extent. You will be able to just jump right in and be like an outlaw. And I wouldn't mind, the point I'm trying to make is I wouldn't mind if there were industrial gameplay loops that are more complex, say mining, but then also ones where I'm not saying we only have to click the left mouse button and then wait for a minute. But I'm not sure if the complexity that's probably going to come, like mini puzzle thingies, and you have to find the right frequency in order to yada yada yada. That's what so far has like scared me off of mining, and I think the Nerdy Gentleman invited me to come along at some point, I think, and show me the ropes of the proper multi-crew mining. But I wouldn't mind if there were gameplay loops in place that attract a similar kind of mindset in terms of I want to do industrial gameplay, but I don't want the complexity, or I don't want the need for multi-crew with people. Of course, then you have the vulture, but even that will arguably a bit more complex than it currently is, right? But
yeah,
digressing a bit there, but that's the.
I get what you're saying. Like I think it's a valid way of approaching the question when it comes with the whole thing, is that making it easier. But I also think that when you're making it easier, it should be fun but not efficient. Because I also think that a lot of people, when they want it to make it make it faster, what they're talking about isn't necessarily fun. They're talking about they want to make money. Like their end goal is money, and they want to try to make as much money as quickly as possible, as easy as possible. And I think the answer to that is that's not the way Star Citizen is going to be built. Like, it's never planned on that. And as we go forward, a lot of what we see that is quick, easy to make money is going to start becoming harder and harder and longer to make that kind of money. And the emphasis is going to be moving away from money towards reputation. So, like, there's going to be a lot of CIGs wants you to play the game. They don't want you to min-max. Like, they will actively fight you to min-max. They'll actively try to destroy min-maxing wherever they can. The meta, they hate meta, and they will do everything they can to destroy the meta, and in the process make new meta. But that's just kind of how the relationship between game developers and their communities is always like that. Yeah. It's an arms race,
which I'm happy about, to be honest. I'm the least meta player in existence. Someone even called me out for, like, oh, if you're not a min max, if you're not about playing for efficiency, you're not a true gamer. I'm like, then I'm not a true gamer. But gaming for me is about having fun along the way. I don't want to say I'm the best at losing. I lose a lot of times in a lot of games, board games, video games. I can have fun on a losing streak, and so it's for me it's not about min-maxing and optimizing everything, and I'm motivated by other intrinsical things to be using that word,
yeah, I'm with you. I'm the kind of the older I got as a gamer, the more I've realized that I just kind of want to enjoy the experience rather than try to chase the dragon's tail, as it were, just to constantly try to get better and better and better. It's like, unless I'm actually having fun doing it, there's no point. I want to enjoy time with friends if I'm doing multiplayer gaming. If I'm doing solo gaming, I want to have a story that I'm immersed with or a goal of some kind. And, so I get the whole...
Welcome to Space Dad's table on Twitch.tv.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the same time, I'm not one of those people who's like, I don't like PvP. PvP shouldn't happen. I'm like, that's what some people just enjoy that. People love that challenge and that grit and that rawness. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't have the time to invest into that anymore. So I still have time to play the game, but I also want to respect the fact that like a game needs to be made that will also let people have that experience of they want to have to have that Rocky montage moment, the time of like they started off bad and they get good and they got better and then suddenly they're really, really good. So that kind of thing. So, but as you said, we need a diverse game. We have a game that needs to be pretty, it needs to attract a lot of different types of people. And so you're going to need the Space Dads gameplay loop, but you're also going to need the Svetty try-hard gameplay loop. And
they need each other. They need each other to like, and I don't want to digress too much, but
That's fine.
I think this whole controversy, if it is one, or the whole toxicity around like space dads on the one hand, or space parents on the one hand, and then sweaty PvPers or pirates even the other hand. I'm not talking TOS grief as defined by TOS. I personally, if I fly into someone in unmonitored space, I may just kill them for no reason and for no profit, which is a legal part of this game. It's part of this game. And for me, the thrill a lot of times of encountering other people in this game is then, and also more so in the future, is not knowing, is this a person who would never attack another player, or is this a person who will just outright kill me? And that uncertainty there in between those extremes is what makes it exciting for me. Like also as someone who has been at the other end of getting shot and then for apparently no reason, but you never know. Maybe that fighter that killed you at Brio's Breaker Yard without any friends around, so it was for without any profit. You don't know. Maybe it was someone who's highly organized with their friends, and there's a prize ship waiting in higher orbit that you didn't even recognize was there. So you're only ever seeing the picture that you want to see a lot of times, whether you're the space dad or the PvP person. And I think if we all just try to be more like empathize more with what actually the opposing sides, if you will, passion and gameplay loop contributes to our own experience of the game in a positive way, making it, in my opinion, only possible in the first place. Like how boring, if I do my industry boring space that shit, excuse me, pardon me. And if I knew there was no risk involved, or the only risk is by NPCs that we all know NPCs are easy, like even on hard mode for human players, I think it's amazing that the sense of threat. And on the other hand, how boring would it be for PvPers if the only opponents were like NPCs? Yawn, give me another game. Like, so I think this whole discussion needs to change at some point. It probably won't, because we all know there's a lot of toxicity in the gaming community in general, and also in, I guess, 50% of the Star Citizen community, as sad as it is, but I'm being realistic here, I think. But if you really think about it, there doesn't have to be an either or. There needs to be diversity, and then everybody can be happy with their gameplay loop, knowing that they also contribute to the larger picture of the game. Full stop. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. I agree. And I see a lot of people being like, well, I don't like being somebody else's content. And the answer is, it's because Star Citizen needs more balance. And in the future, there will be risk, reward for doing those sorts of things. Someone flies up to you and you get shot in the face, and someone like, Stanton, they're going to experience the consequences, like trips to Glacier. But if you look at somebody, if you fly around in Pyro and you complain, well, I got PvP'd in Pyro, my only thought is, why were you in Pyro? It's like, it's like if you don't want to get jumped, don't wander around at 2:00 in the morning in like the middle of a ghetto or like in the middle of a crime-ridden area. You don't want to get shot, don't go walking through a war zone. Like you literally did the thing you're not supposed to do, and getting complained about it. Like, and that's
or
right
even
now. Go ahead.
Don't deal in illegal drugs.
Illegal
Go
drugs.
to Brios by yourself
right.
and then complain that another criminal in game kills you for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I had a
stick with
conversation
illegal
with
stuff.
I had a conversation with some of the guys from Mongrel Squad at one point in time, and I was like, "You guys need to stop calling yourselves pirates." Like, but that's what we are. I was like, "No, you're emergent gameplay engineers."
Yeah.
That would be the technical term, is the emergent gameplay engineer, because exactly what Star Stuff was talking about is like, you can't go if we're doing if we spend a ton of time going through and refining a literal shit ton of Quantanium, and then we loaded it up in the ship and we have a perfectly safe, happy voyage going from here to here. Great, we made money. If we get stopped along the way by, getting pulled out of Quantum, and then we fight our way out of it, and if we somehow survive, or if we don't survive, that's a lot more memorable than the time that we just went through and did the same thing we did every day.
Yeah. I agree.
And to me, that's the spot that makes it to where there's that level. What do you remember whenever you do the same thing every day? Hell, I don't remember half the times I had to drive to work, which I work from home now, but the times that I almost died because a car ran out in front of me, that's the part you tell about people. That's the part that you tell people. That's the part that's exciting. That's what makes it memorable. That's what makes it to where you want to go back and do it again. Maybe not almost getting killed by a car running out in front of you, but in a gameplay aspect, the spots that you go through and when you're telling your friends, man, we were going through and doing this and this and this and this happened. That's the exciting stuff.
I still remember the first kill I got in DayZ, and that will stick with me forever, because it felt visceral and real, because it took so much time and effort and practice, and I just got my ass kicked constantly. And after that, I'm like, now I feel more confident. I think I can actually fight and do well in this game. And so there's a lot of aspect of get good, but in the sense of like learning to play the game and understanding the systems, and once it clicks, you're like, oh, I understand. And PvP adds to that tension, it adds to that drama that's going to happen. I also think that PvP is way overblown. Like, there's probably at best 10% of the community. I think right now it's probably more like 1 to 5% of the community actually participates in PvP and actually will do stuff. And I think it's often overblown because a lot of the people who get targeted are content creators and people who have a lot of visual face because they want to mess with them and that kind of stuff. But it doesn't happen very often organically. So, yeah. All right. Next question. I'm going to save that one for the last one because it's a really good one, because I will pick up another one. What alien ships are you most excited for? There's really only one alien ship left, isn't it? I guess there's two. There's Raylan, too. There's the Banner Merchantman and the Raylan.
As soon as Drake starts making alien ships, I'll be happy. I am not. Don't get me wrong. They're really cool looking. You will never catch me flying one. I don't gravitate towards them. I would put it the same way, like Major Star Stuff. I agree with you completely on the Origin is too fancy, too highbrow, I'm good. I feel that same way. Like the alien ships, they're too highbrow, just on a different level. I can't do it. I need some dirt underneath the fingernails on my ships kind of mentality. They just don't appeal to me. And I love some of the tech that they do. I love some of I love the animations design from a game design perspective. Love it. Gameplay, I'm good. I'll stick with my Caterpillar. I'll stick with my Corsair. I think that's a great ship. But yeah, that's where I have to leave mine.
Major, are there any?
I think the interesting point about, or the challenge with the alien ships resonating with more people. I think probably they do, right? Everybody loves the Sulan. Mm-hmm. Or Soylent, as Paul would say.
Soylent green.
Yeah, I think, and that's why it's so important. Like people like yourself, Paul, doing that the law work, right? Spreading educating people about the law, especially also about the non-humans. I think we all can, most of us can identify with what it means to be a human person and then fly a ship made by a human manufacturer.
Yeah.
The moment I step foot aboard a Banu Defender, what am I? So what's my? And that's just me as someone who works in that area. Kind of like I'm trying to come up with a story. Again, I keep saying story, right? So what's my story here? Why am I even flying a Banu Defender? So my story is I'm doing an apprenticeship aboard a currently non-existent Banu merchantman, and my commander provided me with this Banu Defender, so I can go back and forth between Stanton and wherever we are in the West doing our trading stuff, So, but I personally need something that justifies for me to fly something that's not a human ship if I play, as long as we are only able to play human characters, right? I'm wondering whether by the time, if or when we are able to also play as Banu characters, Xi'an characters, at some point in the far, far, far future. If that will change things, because then, you can, okay, I'm a Banu character. Of course, it makes sense to be flying Banu ships or have a whole fleet of defenders. So that's just a side note there for me, why I struggle with, and I get that point you're making there, Nerdy Gentleman. I also sometimes struggle with, well, okay, I'm into the xenolinguistic stuff, but that does not mean I have to fly a Banu Defender or be looking forward to the Banu Merchantman, right? And I can appreciate the ships existing there to provide me that background in lore, but I don't have to personally fly them. That being said, I'm super excited to see what the Banu Merchantman eventually, at some point in the future, is going to end up like. I have a lot of theories about it and so much hopium.
Yeah.
Will it be the ship that I feel like keeping as my one capital ship? Because I'm not going to have more than one capital ship because I don't have friends, so I'll hardly be able to run one.
I'll be your friend. We can run it together.
Yeah, but as I said, I have the escape route to just the Perseus, and then I can just do like with 3 or 4 people and just shoot at medium-sized ships and be happy with that. But yeah, but I guess Banu Merchantman is what we're all excited about, right?
Yeah, I'm excited for the Banu Merchantman just to see what a Banu ship looks like, because we have the Defender, but we don't really have the Merchantman is just it's the ship of the Banu. Yeah. They just use it so much. So
and we have the lore, we have all the things that you share with Astro Historian. Yeah. But as you said, we have the Defender, and we can try and extrapolate from there. But what's the massive Banu Merchantman actually going to feel like on the the interior? And then that can be like a total turn off or turn on for a lot of people. I think like it can be either you love it or suddenly you're like, oh, I've been waiting for this game for this ship for 10 years, and I realize this is too much. Like, I don't know, all this religious stuff here in the rooms, or these no privacy, making things up here. But this is not my vibe. Give me a Drake ship instead.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I will say the one thing I'm looking forward to is not a ship that's actually coming out, but a hopeful ship that's coming out, which is more Tavaran ships. Because the Tavaran ships are the only ships that I sit there and go, this feels like a ship. Like the Xi'an ships and the Banu ships, they don't feel like ships in our concept of ships. They feel very alien. The Tavaran feels almost aggressively human. Like they're like if humans built a ship, or if aliens built a human ship, kind of thing. And it comes from the fact that like in lore, the Tavaran and humans are very close because they've been together for very long. But even before they were actually effectively one. Part of the same empire, Tavarans always struck me as the most human of the aliens, because like they have very similar concepts to humanity in terms of concepts like, community, in terms of individuality, in terms of like honor or like pragmatism and like identity. A lot of those like a lot of those things that we would say make us human are very similar to the way that the Tevarin thought about themselves and their society. So to me, it's like, yeah, it looks like a bird. Yeah, you got these sort of like kind of like nest-like structures, but when you get into like a cockpit of a Talon, it feels like a futuristic space fighter. Like the screen turning on and moving around and stuff like that. It feels like that. And so I want to see that aesthetic more, where it's like, I can see myself flying this. It makes sense that I'm flying this, but I also know that it's an alien ship. So, you know?
Right.
Has CIG ever put out Tevarin language? No, but I have heard that it is in some stage of being worked on, and we all hope, all of the lore people and the xenolinguistics people hope that it will be released sooner rather than later, because we know it exists somewhere. Let's go. A Tevarin Warbird. Yeah, I'll just say the ship that I actually am looking forward to with Tevarin, which is the Jackal. Which is a lore ship that existed, which is the defensive counterpart to the Hurricane. The Hurricane was built as a response to the Jackal, whereas the Hurricane is like instead of having an engineering sort of shield management station, it has guns to overwhelm shields. So, yeah, I like that idea of a 2-seater fighter where like the second seater is mostly responsible for like managing power systems and weapon systems and getting everything kind of like keeping the pilot, making sure the pilot can do their job, sort of stuff. So
I want a Tevarin capital ship. I was thinking only in terms of, ships that are in the pipeline, but Tevarin capital ship would be cool. And I agree with you. I'm a huge Prowler fan, actually. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of the Prowler. It's utterly useless. It's actually better at PvP if you know how to use the VTOL thrusters, right? It's actually not bad for that, but I just love the whole interior design languages. For me, it's like I can only assume that Buster the Destroyer would like it, because it gives me Klingon Bird of Prey vibes on the inside, and a little bit of Romulan Warbird on the outside or the front. But yeah,
I was gonna say like the Tevarin as a species feel very much like Romulans and Klingons mixed, like that kind of like we're gonna stab you in your sleep, but we're you know, we're not gonna.
We're also very cultured,
We're not going to back down from a fight, kind of thing. So,
about the Tevarin language, if I may, because someone said they were expecting the Tevarin language reveal at this past CitizenCon. I have no background information, obviously, but my just thinking, like, if we think in terms of when does it make sense for a publisher, developing company to allocate resources into developing certain aspects of their lore further, right? And please correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I'd assume that the next big step will for them be, once Squadron 42 is out, to approach the second episode. It's a trilogy, anyways, right? So, and I'd simply say it's Tevarin language. It's going to sound harsh now. It's just not relevant right now for CIG and for the whole development, right? It's going to become relevant, maybe, potentially, and I don't want to spread rumors here because I'm just making this up and then theory crafting, but maybe the second episode will then be about the Tevarin UE wars. Who knows, you know? And then we need the Tevarin language.
Yeah, I think I will tell you that the Tevarin are not a priority. Based off of what I know and based off of the things I have seen, the leaks that I have seen from years ago, that Tevarin are not really in Squadron 42. As far as I know, they might have changed. But based off of the development, we know that the things they've been focusing on are humans, then Vanduul, then there's a bit of references to Xi'an kind of character work being done. And then they've recently started talking about the Banu as kind of a character work, like rigging up skeletons and stuff like that and getting them to like walk around. But there's never been a mention of Tevarin being in that process. They've in fact been through reconcept phases a couple of times since then too. So like they're definitely further behind Tevarin in terms of actual in-game stuff. And because it's sort of not a priority, it's probably just not going to get a lot of attention until then. So
yeah. And I mean, why would they, right? I mean, as someone who's
makes
passionate
sense.
about these languages, but it just doesn't make any sense other than appeasing to like making a few hundred or even less xenolinguistic nerds in the Star Citizen community happy. That's not a sufficiently enough business reason to be going like, okay, Britton Watkins, who's probably going to be the person to create the Tavaran language, here you go, let's do it. Let's do the Tavaran language. Why? Context. Like, you know, they're going to need it at some point, but is it relevant right now? They probably start at some point, but I don't expect it too far.
Let's do some rapid fire stuff here.
Yes.
There is, because it's getting late, I know, for you, Major Star stuff. So,
my Deep Cyclist.
Anyway. So, Midnight Black IC asks you, Major Star stuff, does your name come from the Carl Sagan's quote?
Yes.
Yes.
It does. Awesome. Thank you. If you recognize that, I approve of your existence.
I used to go to sleep to Cosmos every night, so I always wake up with the amount of stuff that sometimes he says you're made of star stuff in that series is a lot.
for those few who don't know, we are all made of star stuff, and then a universe within us, yada yada yada, and stuff like that. But
it's great.
That's where it comes from. And also, there's a song, Major Tom, which is originally by actually a German, someone covered together. Anyway, but it's Peter Schilling, the Major Tom is a German song my mother used to hear, and my name's Thomas, so Major Star Stuff kind of made a lot of sense as a reference to those two things.
And I think there's another song. It's funny because it's Major Tom's is reference.
It's obviously also Space Odyssey by David Bowie, right?
Yeah, it's a song that's been written in response to David Bowie, almost like a follow-up song to it. And then there was another. I want to say
there is a French version by Plastic Bertrand. If anyone, check it out. And it has arguably the best lyrics because I'm a huge fan of sarcasm and cynicism. And it's literally says, my French is horrible, but it says like, goodbye, horrible Earth, the little green men are more fun, or something along the lines of that. So check that out. Plastic Bertrand, sans aller de la terre, like leaving the Earth behind. So it's a bit darker than the other ones, actually.
Yeah. There's another one that's like kind of referencing Major Tom as well, which is sort of more about like Major Tom escaping everything. And it's like, it's a huge, there's like an entire like music universe just around the character of Major Tom from Space Odyssey. So this is pretty cool. Another fun fact that I discovered about that song, Space Odyssey was played right before the launch of the Apollo 11 mission, because it was written a year before that, a year or two before that. And so on the live broadcast of the official live broadcasts, they brought in David Bowie to perform the song right before the launch happened. So it was pretty cool. It was either right before the launch happened or right before it landed. The Apollo 11 landed. So it was pretty cool. All right. Thank you, Major Stuff. Yeah. Major Stuff. That's one. Kavion, I think this is a question for you, nerdy gentleman. Any beard oil you recommend?
It sounds not sponsored in any way.
Yet.
Actually, there's one called Old Money from Beard Brand. They have one that I love, and it's called Old Money. They have mustache wax and the beard oil, and does great. And the smell, Old Money. That's mine right there. That's the one I love.
Not
Temple Smoke is also really good.
Yeah, not sponsored yet. Steve the Dancer asks, and this is another question for you, nerd gentlemen. How do you feel about the mining changes in 3.22? I think we kind of went over that. We just kind of said it's a positive.
Did go over. Yeah, no, I think overall very positive. I would have liked to have seen them go through and change some of the pricing make it more profitable for refinement, so it actually is something that can be competitive to either salvaging or salvage scraping and munching, or we'll just call it munching.
Okay, and there's another question here about Dell from Deliner. It's like, should it be required to refine salvage materials and add that equity to mining in terms of time sinks for profits? I think eventually yes, but that's more of a gameplay loop thing, because you also What are you going to use the construction materials for? Well, obviously you're going to use them to build things. So how would that matter if you had construction materials? Well, you should be able to refine those construction materials into specific, like.
I've said for a while, I think that we're going to see a lot more of that gameplay loop being expanded upon once we go through and receive the Expanse, and then also move that into further with things like the Arastra or because the refining gameplay loop, it's not. I was really. My disappointment when this patch came out with the structural salvaging was that you weren't going through and having to refine the stuff that was coming out of there, and not just for the complexity of it, but because that was, I wanted to see that moving forward into the refining gameplay loop, which we will receive with the Expanse. And I can see them going through and saying like, sweet, you'll be able to go through and refine construction materials or refine RMC or mining materials, stuff like that, because that will make it toward that gameplay loop. I love it when you have the Venn diagrams and like, refining does this, and it works well with this one, it works well with this one, and all these can benefit from each other, but are not required to. You can have a solo like gameplay loop, and so that's what I'm looking forward to, is seeing that expansion of the gameplay loop whenever other systems come on board with it.
Yeah, and I think that's within earshot. I think a lot of that stuff is within grasp because with things like the base building gameplay being worked on, and like crafting really being a thing, like that's where a lot of this stuff is going to have to start coming from. Like eventually it's going to be pointless to have a big amorphous gray goo. It won't sell very well. But if you turn that gray goo into its base materials like aluminum, titanium, iron, whatever it's made out of, suddenly it becomes valuable to sell or use for crafting and stuff like that. So, and
it becomes meaningful to mine in the first place.
Yeah,
one might argue, right? I mean, that's
to actually get those materials, because you're probably going to get more iron out of an iron asteroid than you would out of a ship.
Exactly.
So not only meaningful in terms of making a profit, but also meaningful in terms of what's the context here? Why am I doing this? Yes, because I'm going after this gameplay loop, but also in the context of the game, right? There's so much still missing, and we saw a lot of those missing bits and pieces this year at CitizenCon, as you said, with base building. I think that's going to add a lot of justification to those gameplay loops and add to the immersion.
Okay. This is a kind of, I think this is more of a quick one. Is there something like an SRV for loading and unloading materials for construction projects in the Star Citizen verse? And will we get something like it when crafting and building becomes available? No, there isn't any kind of like automatic loading and unloading for like construction materials or like that sort of thing. That doesn't really exist outside of something like the SRV, which would probably be used for it. Maybe the MPUV, maybe, but like that'd probably be some sort of module attached. But yeah, if you're talking about like cranes or like moving construction materials, it could definitely happen. It definitely needs to happen when construction becomes a thing. But for right now, tractor beam citizen, go burr.
Honestly, that's going to be the fastest part for it. I did like the Argo, the MPU like master part, and without either the passenger or cargo attachment to it, but just the open one that kind of looks like what's the helicopter that actually moves like shipping containers and stuff like that?
The Chinook or something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not that. It's not the Chinook.
It's not the Chinook, but it's one that's got that open frame on the back to where like they can. And I love that side of it. But the bottom line is that's going to be a lot more moving parts and more of a pain than pulling out your Gray Cat rifle, or max lift, I think is what they call, and doing it that way. And so it's one of those sides is like adding complexity for complexity's sake, or using the systems that are in place right now. I'm actually really happy with the max lift rifle and the functionalities that it goes through and has. But if you're doing a comparison of like, is there anything else out there? I don't see that. I don't see them putting anything at this point in time in, but I could be wrong, because I mean, look, we have the mule, which is a useless vehicle, but it's really fun. And I love the mule, and don't take it away, because like, that's that two sides of it. You're like, it's useless, but it's cute.
There's the hover trolley, which is going to be coming in, but the hover trolley is kind of like a you walk with it. It's like you kind of hold on to it and you're walking. It's hovering, but you're walking while it's hovering. rather than like moving heavy equipment. You're still moving it. So, yeah. And what you're looking for is the sky crane. Apparently, it's called the Eckerson Skier Sky Crane. Is what it was. The one that the big like hollowed out interior that you like they haul things with. Yeah. So, the S64. All right.
It's a cool helicopter.
Yeah, it's a really cool helicopter. I'd love to see something like that in Star Citizen for sure. Because yeah, like you said, the MPUV has that look when it has no that module inside of it.
Yep.
Okay, I think this is another quick one. Does advanced starter really mean anything, or is it just marketing speak to get newbies to buy them? They seem like they should be called solo ships to me. They're advanced starters, I would argue, in the fact that they give you more options, but they are still not experts. They're just generalist ships. They're terrible, but they're generalist ships. Like, I know people love their. I am a ride or die 315. It's the one ship that's not a Drake ship that I'm like, I love this ship. 315 is a fantastic ship in my mind for a lot of its utilitarian reasons. But would you actually go out and buy a 315 with cash? Hell no. You just buy it in game. Like, that's the problem with the advanced starters, like the Nomad or the Reliance. Like, they're great, but if you're gonna get a Nomad, just get a Cutlass. Like, it's better.
I never liked the term. I liked it back before they started using advanced starter, because we at that point in time in our org between our friends, it was like basically you had your starters and then you had your career starters. Mm-hmm. Anything in between there is you buy it in game. Because I whenever introducing new people, they were like, "What about the Nomad? That's a cool ship." And I was like, just buy the $45 starter or a career one. But if you're spending $90, you're literally like $20 away from a career starter ship. You might as well do that. And they didn't listen. And now they're like, "Why'd you let me buy this?" And I'm like, "We'll fight this. Let's go outside right now. We'll fight."
What do you think, Major Joseph? Do you think there's like a place for advanced starters, or do you think it's just kind of just marketing speak?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I agree with what you said, Nerdy Gentleman. I mean, unless you look at a ship and you know it's kind of an in between the perfect ship, which is obviously the Pisces, and then the mid-tier ships, and you just look at it and it's like, oh, that's my ship. It makes me happy and it's beautiful. Then go pledge it and have it as your mediocre.
There is a perfect place for it.
Yep.
New Deal shipyards.
Yeah, but I mean, I can relate to people who just, I want this ship permanently in my hangar. Yeah, so true. If you've got the disposable income for it and you don't mind, just get it, but don't expect it to be the ship that's going to carry you through the game. I don't know advanced starter. I feel like we've got starter ships that then progress into, like, for me it's still the progress from, say, because I have 100i was my first ship, right? Like my luxury little starter. Then I progress into what next? Cutlass Black, probably.
Yeah.
That's the next step, and then you're already in larger ship territory after that. So that's kind of like the progress I see there. So I'm not sure if there's a space for something. Advanced starter. What that's even supposed to mean? Like, for me, advanced starter ship is a Cutlass Black, but then we're already in multi-crew, like beginner multi-crew territory. Right? It's no longer a starter. Arguably, the Cutlass Red, the Cutlass Black is the one ship. If you want to pledge, if I could talk to my younger self, like 1.5 years ago, I'd tell myself, calm down, Thomas. Beautiful space JPEGs, but all you'll ever need is a Cutlass Black.
Yeah,
that's it. You can do everything, and then all the other ships you can work towards in game.
Yeah.
And then maybe a Pisces, because everybody should have a Pisces.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with Sketch Therapy. The medical C8R, the C8R is a great ship for anybody. Yeah. For anybody, it's a great ship.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we're getting into the more intense questions, which I think we can go through some fairly quickly, but these are a little bit more. We're going to require some time. The first one was, how would you rework the reclaimer to better utilize the reworked salvage mechanic? I don't know. Like that's for me. I'm like I don't know enough about that to know. So I'll let either Major or Nerdy go on this one.
What do we mean by to better make use of the reworked salvage? So what's the
like how would you change
I look at the reclaimer
design? Yeah, how would you change the reclaimer design to make use of the to make it function, not broken? I mean, personally, what I would say is just fix the problems, because a lot of the problems are like the elevator's broken, they clips through stuff, and like you said, it's like just bugs. I think it would be a lot better, but there's definitely some design aspects which just don't quite work with the modern version of Star Citizen. So
honestly, I mean, Nerdy, you go take share your take on that one. But just my quick thoughts on it would be, I think the reclaimer is in a great place. Wait for it. In a great place, like overall design concept wise, I think for what it's supposed to be, a multi-crew, heavy salvage, long distance salvage ship. It has a lot of problems currently that need to be fixed. But once those are fixed, please tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think it needs like a complete rework in terms of like the overall layout of the ship. Yes, it's bothersome if you solo it and you have to run down from the bridge through this salvage area, but that's not what you're supposed to do anyway. And even if you choose to, it is possible. Yes, it's bothersome, but it should be, because it's a capital size ship, right?
I would agree with you. I would tend to agree. So so right now, yes, as Paul pointed out, bugs, with invisible fences and dips in the floor that go through and change stuff out, that's frustrating and annoying as it is. The only thing I would actually really say is that there's, and this is not just exclusive to the reclaimer, but for this specific question with the reclaimer, utilization of space is one of those key spots to where we deal with this right now. You don't go through and add shit to the space station just because it's going to look cool. It has to have a form and function. They with the change that they've done to the I don't know if you remember the killer clowns from outer space with the insane sucking straw to go through, and that mentality for this new salvaging structure. They've made it to where that the grinding pit inside there at this point in time, and possibly for the foreseeable future, from the sounds of it, is maybe not necessary. And in that case, something that's actually more akin to what's inside the Argo mole, whenever you actually have the mole heads, the laser heads coming back, and you have this little ore processing section that's kind of breaking down and making it into finer and finer particles, going through and separating everything out, would actually make more sense now inside the reclaimer than what's in there. And then you could go through and utilize that space for really what it's supposed to be at that capital size ship with those capital size gigantic huge engines back there. And that's utilizing it more for just space of storage of all of those raw salvaged materials, because this is a ship that you should be able to go out to and not max out at a hammerhead, but a true capital size ship taking down system on there. This truly utilized out into its full amount of space. You need to have a crew for 5 or 6 people. You need to go through and make sure that you have large enough, and honestly get rid of the multi-levels, make it to where you got a ground floor where all your shit goes through and stores out to behind. So it would actually be, if you think of the spider layout that they have, you would have it to where it's the system, the split down and everything like that, and the ore processing stuff. And then you would just have floor to ceiling, maybe separated by layers, but you would be able to go through and with your multi-tool, go through and stack that stuff back and have 16 SCU boxes to where you're just stacking them floor to ceiling for all of your storage to break down a truly capital ship whenever those come in game. We don't have those really in game yet. So the largest ones we have that you can go through and get regularly are ships like the Hammerhead. And you can get a lot of stuff out of there, but we can go through and run. And I'm not kidding when I think we pulled out close to 1,100 SCU of cargo out of like 8 or 9 different things, and went through and just stacked it everywhere we could. But you only have one floor that actually has a grid functionality where you can attack that stuff for. And that's frustrating, because outside of a grid, then you're like, oh, we're just trying to stack it in there any way possible. And it's kind of going through and throwing that off. So if they were to do an actual redesign for it, it would be get rid of the middle grinder section, have that section to where it's actually going through and like side by side, eject 16 STU, and then everything back behind you is just a giant grid that you can go through and stack everything for, because that's what you're going to need whenever, and you would actually have to go through and really either get a better system whenever you're fracturing, which I know that's probably going to be coming along in the future with the Maelstrom system. So you can go through and break down a second time, because sometimes you'll go through and be like, we got a 240 SCU buffer or whatever it is. Well, this one piece over here is 300 SCU. So I'm either going to lose it 60 SCU, or I'm going to go through and get that stuff figured out. I know this is a bit more ranty than anything, but having that backside of it to where you can go through and really utilize that space to its fullest is the key function that they need in there. And then in front of that, my biggest gripe with the Reclaimer has always been, I need to hire the Ghostbusters and an Exorcist, because it just, I get the vibe they're going for, and I get that they haven't made that ship in a really long time. But really, does it have to be haunted? Does it have to be rust spots all over the place and in the shower? That's nothing but blood. You can't tell me it's not blood.
Yeah,
I can't hire a maid.
it's the Nostromo. Like, that's the whole point. Is it's supposed to be the Nostromo, but at the same time, like, they really need to do a full on rework of that whole ship from top to bottom, at least interior, if not exterior as well. To make
which kills me that they went through and changed the SCU box container shipper. You know, like the ability, and they're like, that'll be good enough. And you're like, well, did you actually try to move those anywhere? Because if so, you wouldn't have made a 16 SCU that you can't seem to drop down very easily down to the bottom.
I know some people are saying like the Starfarer is in a worse spot. No, it's not. The Starfarer is terrible for navigation, but at least it utilizes its space mostly okay. There's been some areas that are weird, but like you can fuel and unfuel with it. It's got problems other places.
Also, you can use it as a carrier for a lot of Furies.
Or cargo, because you can put a lot of cargo in there, but it's
all cargo.
You can't even do that with the Reclaimer.
No, I get that. I stand corrected. So that's I give you that. Like I'm not sure like if it needs to be a full rework, but specifically what you mentioned, the cargo area. We had that yesterday. We actually did a raid, and then afterwards the friends did, and I came with my Reclaimer, and we reclaimed the enemy's Reclaimer. Who reclaims the Reclaimer, and then what to do with all those cargo containers, right? And where do we go sell now? Construction materials don't get accepted like at all the places. If you go to Grimhex, you're in Armistice, and then if you want to go back and forth and put the next couple of boxes on the cargo grid, so we went to Reclamation Point Orinth, and then anyway stuff happened, but. And then the other point, the elevator, I guess, right? You want to have a way to get those 16 SCU crates at least. I think 8 SCU is still fairly okay, but I had to maneuver those 16 SCU boxes out of the Reclaimer yesterday through the either the rear end, right, in a soft death Reclaimer out of all and then including graphics glitches that then come into play. But even though the main elevator, it's you get easily 3 16 SCU boxes. I think is it 3 or is it 8? Is it 8? I don't know. You get a few containers on it, but then it's arguably it should support more cargo also to get the stuff in and out for a ship.
Or make it to where if they were looking at it logically to be able to go through and unload it when you were designing the ship, as looking at it from the spot of a designer, like an in-game designer, not like our designers. You would look at something to go through and say, all right, sweet, we can go through and do all that. How would you do a rapid planned unloading of this? And it would, in my head, the only way to do it is one of two ways. One, make it to where if you actually look at the back half of the Reclaimer, it kind of like tips up. The ass looks like it's got a ramp basically under the thorax of the spider, because all I see is a spider when I see that thing. That would either drop down or the top would clamshell out. So you could do a rapid unloader, because that's the other side of it too, is like, whenever designing this out, if you were a designer or an engineer, you would go through and say, sweet, how do we utilize the space? How do we store everything? How do we get everything out? Because that's what it's going to do at the end of the day, is you're going to go through and have to store all that stuff in there. And since they put it in SCU boxes and not a massive storage container, off-site thing, whatever, you would have to be able to unload those. And yes, you would have an elevator still in there because you would want to have the easy way to go through and bring stuff into it. But to unload all of it,
the most efficient way. There's a reason why we don't cover fucking barge ships that are coming across ocean liners, and you have to have it to where you can get all that stuff off quickly with the crane. Pop, 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 pop,
Yeah.
pop, pop.
Yeah,
Or
I
make it
has
as
to be
you
done that
as you
way.
yeah. Or make it as you kind of pointed at, make the whole rework the cargo area and make it like a huge like Carrack style ramp thing, like the whole cargo area is like opens up to and then it transforms into a ramp and you can just unload.
Just drop it down like that.
I will say, someone said earlier the Starfarer needs priority. I think the Starfarer's exterior is fine. It just needs an interior rework to make it.
It is beautiful. It's not fine. The exterior is beautiful.
The exterior is, I agree. It is a beautiful ship for what it does.
The only ship that's more beautiful in game is the Halsey.
And the Reclaimer is iconic, but also I think the Reclaimer is, and this might be heresy, all right? This might piss a lot of people off. But I think this is a problem with a lot of Aegis ships. It's the same problem with the Redeemer, which is I think CIG needs just to admit they fucked up. They built a ship for a mechanic they had no idea what it was about, and they built it entirely off of aesthetics. Yeah. And they need to go back to ground zero and rebuild the Reclaimer from scratch with a brand new design, with an understanding of the Aegis aesthetics, maybe try to capture some of the original ideas, but then rework it to be exactly what it's designed to do in game. And that might piss a lot of people off.
I would say that's not only for the Reclaimer, though.
No, I think it's the Redeemer has that same problem, and there's a lot of Aegis ships have that problem because it's just like they were built before a lot of the concept ideas of what the game will be was in.
And I think you're right. I think there's going to be like half the community that's going to be like, I didn't back this ship. That ain't my ship. And then there's the other half of the community that's like, yes, please. And
people lost their mind when they did that to the Carrack, because the Carrack had to get changed. And when they changed it, people were like, it's fat. They were fat shaming a ship. It was just like, what the fuck? Like it's not that important.
I remember that. Yeah.
So like you just need and it's just one of those things where like you could make the ship better while honoring the original design, but it's far too big for what it needs to be doing. And if it's going to be that big, it needs to have like more efficient use of space and everything like that.
And not take 45 seconds and 4 elevator rides to get to the back from the front. Like I understand, but workflow, like all these things. If you've ever done any kind of engineering design courses, you would look at the Reclaimer and go, this would not be designed this way, other than it would be as a designer, like interior design, kind of like feng shui and kind of stuff. But you wouldn't look at it as a structurally functional design. No. It's not. It wouldn't pass that.
No, it's got problems that are so fundamental down to it has no good. The Starfarer has good bones. The Reclaimer has rotten bones, and it needs it needs that. And again, I know some people, and already people in chat saying it's great, rework the inside. I don't think you can rework the inside. I don't think you cannot turn this lemon into lemonade. I think it's just a rotten lemon that needs to get tossed and needs to be rebuilt. So. Like, and I would say there's only a handful of ships that are like that. I can think off the top of my head is the Reclaimer and the Redeemer are the only two ships, and that's because they suffer the same problem. They were designed for a game that is not what we see. So, go ahead. Maybe.
So just putting my finger a bit more in that wound. So would you say the more I listen to you talking like that, I stand corrected. I totally agree now. Thank you for enlightening me. So would you say there's the Reclaimer and the Redeemer, and maybe there's another one that we can come up with? Are those ships from a time where making those ships was more like a proof of concept in terms of we can create ships that make you feel a certain way, that give you those alien vibes, that give you those whatever vibes, that maybe even like trying to come up with another ship that's obviously targeted towards a certain, and again, catchphrase, target audience, and like we come play this game, pledge this game. We promise you to provide you with these kinds of vibes, and then like forgetting along the way that, or just because it was so early in development, right? Not having that perspective, or not having enough information. Maybe not, in trying to come to the defense of the developers here, there was not enough information at hand about what the game's eventually going to look like for real. Like, yes, a lot of, and so maybe now is the time, or the coming years will be the time. The coming years, it sounds so sad.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the time to look into the mirror and be like, okay, this needs a rework, maybe a complete rework. Yeah.
I think the Reclaimer is the most egregious example.
Yeah.
But I also think the Mercury Star Runner is up there because it's the first.
Right, that will be another
ship.
one. Yeah.
It's the first Crusader ship that was.
But they've already announced they're going to be doing a full rework on the MSR. That's one thing that has been announced through there.
I don't know if it's
somebody in the chat
exterior rework. The 600i, and I know someone said the 600i, but the 600i, it's like the 600i has good bones. Like its structure works. It's just a massive waste of space is the problem. Same thing with the Starfarer. It's just like I don't know how you quickly egress from the current Reclaimer. I don't see you building a way of quickly egressing anything with a current Reclaimer without massively wasting space. Sorry, go ahead, Nerdy Gamer. Sorry,
I was going to say, Flair in the chat had mentioned the Carrack too at this point, and I really disagree on the Carrack. I think the Carrack is one of the ships that a slight rework is definitely in order, but I don't think it's one of those ones that are at the point of like the egregiousness of the Reclaimer. The Carrack is a really solid ship. I really look forward to them going through and introducing like drone gameplay and stuff like that in the future.
Being able to swap out those cargo bays or opening them up, like clamshelling them out. That's really what it needs. It needs gameplay,
and it's small stuff, right? And so, like, yes, they need to go through and have it to where, but those are supposed to be able to get dropped and be able to go through and get in and out. But overall, I think I agree with the ones that you mentioned. The only other one that I would say is, and so many ships need to have a gold standard and kind of brought up to speed on functions and everything like that. If we're talking about that, the one thing that I have said for the longest time is the Caterpillar needs a rework, because if you're looking at it from a ship-worthy barge, or in space, there's way too much non-utilization of space inside there, or like or inefficient utilization of space that you just wouldn't see. And that's like aesthetically, it works and it feels great for the ship, and it doesn't need to necessarily have it from that side. But there's just so much to where it's like, they really wouldn't design that. But at that point in time, it's getting nitpicky. It's nothing game breaking in there. Yeah. Whereas with the Reclaimer, it feels terrible. Like honestly, like going back there, like if you're just the claw operator, boring. But if you're going through and doing anything up front, it's fine. As soon as you go back to the back and they're like, all right, so I'm going to drop this down here, go ahead and grab it and bring it along the whole lines. And it just doesn't work because it gets caught on everything. It makes it to where you lose. There's a fun loss, a net fun loss from doing that cycle. And it's not all about like the efficiency of the gameplay or money making or anything like that. How are you having fun with doing it as well? You lose a lot of that through there. And it's because of it's just not being just right.
Yeah. It's like the fact that they just admitted, like the only reason why I say this is they admitted defeat and said, we're not doing munching. The claw can't be a claw, so we have to do something else. And at this point, it's just like, then why even bother? Like the whole thing about the Reclaimer was the claw. That was the one thing that people really liked. And if you're getting rid of the claw entirely in terms of its functionality of grabbing things, and you have these like tractor beams, it's like, who would build it like this then? The answer is it was built in a time well before they understood what the game was going to look like or what the gameplay mechanic was going to be, and we're going off of aesthetics and rule of cool. And this is an example of why the rule of cool can be dangerous, because if you go off of rule of cool without a design document, you end up with looking at a lot of work you've done that's going to have to get replaced. So So
and you design something that's cool in the here and now. You design something that's cool in the here and now without knowing what that gameplay loop will eventually end up looking like in 5 years time, 10 years time, right? How old is the Reclaimer? 5 years?
It was like the second biggest ship we got in the game, because the first one was the Starfarer. I think it was the Reclaimer was the second one. So
So I will throw out just a simple small medium ship, the Terrapin.
Yeah. It looks great.
Why?
But why?
I love it. Love the turtle. Love it. But I'm like, awesome. Why is there a seat in the middle of? Is this some sort of weird?
It's supposed
craziness?
to be. I mean, it's supposed to be a scanning ship, but why would you need two people to operate a scanning ship? You just have a seat. Yeah, just a main seat.
Yeah.
Serves to show the ships that have aged the best are the ones that are the most generic, like the Cutlass, the Freelancer. Even the Freelancer in need of a lot
Interior
of love,
work.
but
Yeah.
I'd say yes, right. But I think the Freelancer, like the ramp, the cargo ramp, the safe ingress point with the ladder, which I love. Yes, do we need 4 seats in the cockpit? Arguably not, but
No.
But still, it's a ship that doesn't have a lot of flaws in terms of it's still give it an interior rework and it's still up to going after the gameplay loops it's supposed to do, and as opposed to others.
And I will say, like, the Connie, the Freelancer are both examples of this, of early ships that need to get redesigned, but because they both are fine interior wise, it's just a matter of like reusing, or exterior wise, it's just a matter of looking at the interior space and reworking them. Both of the ships also had reworks, multiple reworks in the past. The Freelancer used to have to, the way you got in was there was that front landing gear was higher, and there was a little hatch, and you would go in through stairs on the front landing gear.
More like the 400i, right?
Yeah, so more like the 400i. And that was just a nightmare to do. And so they changed it so the side like ladders and stuff like that. And a lot of that process of them reworking the Freelancer ended up being helping them understand things like the aesthetics for the Starfarer, which was kind of already in the base, but more like the Prospector, and a lot of the other MISC ships took heavy cues from the rework of the Freelancer. Same with the rework of the Connie, like the Mantis takes a lot of cues from the Connie as well, and so does the Apollo, which are both very similar in terms of like aesthetics. So I think that's really the key, is that the Reclaimer never got a rework. It never has had a rework. It's the same ship we've had since. It's gotten some little stuff added to it, but never had a full rework, and that's the reason why it's at the point where it's really showing that it's like, yeah, this is a ship built before its time, and yeah.
And it doesn't have that again story that it tells you design wise, like in terms of iterations, right? Yes, it's the Nostromo. Yes, it has like Aegis vibes and like interior, except for the spooky stuff, reminds of the Hammerhead. But with the Freelancer, you can with the MISC ships, you can see where it started, what it went through, and leading up to. And I wasn't joking. I seriously think the Hull C is a piece of art. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want the ship to look like a space P censored? But I think it's like the standard of the MISC ships. The interior design standard is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's the spindle. I mean, there's so much great stuff with the Hull C. And you can see the iterations it took them in terms of MISC as a series of a line of ships.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say like Argo is another example. Like you may not like Argo ships, but if you look at they have really good use of space. Like they're efficient. Their living spaces look comfortable, but practical. They've nailed that industrial aesthetic. MISC is taking a lot of those cues as well. Like the Hull A, the Hull C, the Freelancer, they all look like they came from the same family of ships. It makes me excited for things like the Expanse and things like the Odyssey and the Endeavor, because all of those should have those same sort of cues, and you'll know from the very beginning that they work. But
and then Aegis, Drake is probably right there, third place or second place, right?
Yeah, like the Caterpillar. Like I think the only thing I'd change about the Caterpillar is instead of having each individual module, so you have to kind of walk through door. Instead of that, you just make it a one tube. Because,
but that's the whole thing with modularity and because those are actually supposed to be switched out. That's a whole different story down the line. I will say, you mentioned Argo. I love the peak Argo interior design. The raft, I love the living space in the raft. I think it's the best use in the Argo series. Between the Mole, the raft, and the SRV. I guess there's not that many ships that they have, but like the raft, that interior, it's choice for me. It's gorgeous. I love the SRV in the sense of a single person ship or whatever. But I agree with you. I like seeing that movement forward into the different ships.
Yeah.
And I think they progress in their design language and their design Bible.
I think that the Aegis, and it's the Aegis ships, because I was actually having a conversation with one of my viewers. I think they're in chat right now. They're like, okay, what is Aegis's theme? And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know. Like, they're kind of like RSI, where they kind of have multiple themes, but at least RSI has like the space Doritos and the what would I call them? The angular cockpits meet with nacelles for engines, like engine nacelles.
Right.
Like that's they're sort of like, they have dual mechanics, like where the more militaristic ones are more like aggressive and triangular, whereas the ones that are more civilian and they're more like almost Starfleet-esque, and then the ones that are more industrial are kind of a combination of the two.
Right.
And so they have at least some theme to it, but like Aegis is just kind of like everywhere. The only ships that even look similar are the kind of like just the cockpit designs, or like the Retaliator, which even it's not at all into its exterior, but the Saber, the Gladius, and the Vanguard are like really the only ones that really kind of
exterior though. Vanguards and Retaliator arguably, right? Like the rear is kind of similar. It's the part that I don't like at all. Like, I want them all to look like hammerheads, and I'm like, no, but that is actually the exception, not the rule of Aegis design, I suppose.
Yeah, and then a hammerhead is great, but the hammerhead should be the basis. Like what I would do is I would take the hammerhead and use the hammerhead as the basis for a redesign of the
100%. Please make them all look like rectangles. My kind of ship design.
Yeah, that's great.
That's why I love the raft. Actually, that's why I love the raft also.
And that would be a great Aegis design, like that, to differentiate it. It's cubes. They're rectangle space because they're spaceships. Like, okay, your job is to go around in space. Why would you want sleek designs? Like your fighters look like space planes, and all of your bigger ships look like cubes or rectangles, like different stuff. That's great. That's fine.
Makes sense.
So, but yeah, sorry, we kind of got on this, but I said this is going to be the one that goes through, and I knew I was going to say it. I was going to, especially after we went through a lot of the discussion parts, was just like,
I'm happy. I got the Reclaimer rant that I came for.
Yeah,
that I wanted to pull off in the morning, and I didn't even have to. I merely triggered it, and then it escalated from there.
I can go off hope you're watching. Theory crafting, especially whenever it comes from like structural engineering side of it.
Yeah.
Let me bite my teeth into that, because it's just one of those things to where you're like, I get it. Rule of cool, understood.
Yeah. But there's ways of doing rule of cool and also sticking to a design language which works, and functionality.
Yeah.
And like the Sulian is a great example of that. It's a Xi'an ship, and it looks completely different from the Aopoa ships, and it works. The Santokyai is the same thing. It looks like it was made by the same manufacturer that built the Cartual. Like, boom, it works.
Yep.
But like, and those are cool. They still have like gameplay aspects. They have story aspects. They still fit within like the sort of realm of possibility. So. I will use the word that will probably do the most to change CIG's mind. The Reclaimer is not immersive. It takes you out of the experience because you're thinking more about why does this ship exist and who built this thing than you are about the functionality of the ship or the aesthetics of the ship. So, all right. Now we've got...
Again, it's easy to complain, right? I mean,
yes.
Now they can make these ships like the Sulan that like just, wow.
Yeah.
Close to perfect. But now they have much more information than they had 5 years ago about, okay, what's that game actually going to be like in terms of like all the fleshed out details, in terms of gameplay loops, in terms of who are what are the gameplay loops? What are they going to look like in more detail? What's that immersion that we are all talking about? What's that immersion going to look like? How are we going to flesh that out? Now the information is there. Now it's easy. It's not easy, I'm sure, but now it's more realistic to make a ship that really feels like it's in the place that it belongs, and it belongs in this verse, and it's immersive, and it connects to the gameplay loops and all the tiny little details, all the intricacies that come with immersion. And then 5 years ago, arguably that information wasn't there. So I'm not even finger pointing, or I don't think it would have been possible 5 years ago to get the
No, it wouldn't
say reclaimer, right? Like, or not even for 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right.
Like to really future proof it. Sorry.
So the next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, what would you like to see expanded with the Luminalia event? More Arena Commander events, PU events? I will say any more in-game events. More in-game events is always better. Like they already have, I'm sure they have the gift stuff back, right? Like the gift events where you have to go pick up packages and deliver them for Luminalia. I don't know if they are in there yet or if they didn't do it this year. But
I don't know actually yet. I always
Can I go
wanted to see more
first?
stuff
Can I go
on the-
first? Because
Yeah,
mine is
absolutely.
super short. Mine is super short. Sorry. I don't do Christmas, and in my Suli, we don't celebrate the ancient, the archaic festivity of Luminalia. So that's my answer.
That's your answer? Well, I mean, I was going to say my quick question. The answer is parties. Banu party like crazy, and this is a Banu holiday. Like, I want to be able to go and get smashed with NPCs. All right, like that would be an event for me. Just like,
But without that Banu Merchantman sex pit?
Yeah,
Boring.
that's true. without the muddy sex pit, who cares? The snuggle puddle. But yeah, it's a party. Like it's an event. So it'd be kind of cool to have those sorts of like, or at least places where you could go, because like there is the secret hidden Christmas tree area in Microtech. But if there were more places like that, like where you could go see NPCs celebrating and get festive drinks and that sort of stuff, whatever.
Yeah, I recuse myself. I'm a Grinch, and I'm even in my Suli, I'm known as the Luminalia Grinch, the Banu equivalent to a Grinch. That's me.
What would you like to add to it, Nerdy?
The only thing I always like it in games whenever they do have. I would like to see more people that are dressed festively and kind of like drunken, staggeringly or staggering around
drunk.
Yeah. And just kind of like, and maybe hearing more of like the Christmas kind of, or Luminalia kind of like cheers and stuff like that are going on with it. But just seeing that effect in the game, like you walk into a bar in the game any day of the week or whatever, all year long, you got the same like three guys in there, and the bartender's like, just order something. And it's like, cool, make it to where when they walk in during the Luminalia events, they tend to have a few more patrons in there that are dressed in a specific garb, whether it's for the whatever they do for I'm terrible with the names for all of the different events.
You have those little lamps. You have maybe little lamps hanging from the
something that makes it to where it's like to me that's all you really need to do is like have a little bit of like the games looking for the cards and stuff like that, or the different gifts or whatever, but make it to where the people in the game actually give a shit about it.
Yeah.
And if you have that sells it to me. That's all I need. I'm pretty simple in the fact, like, if you got somebody running around Luminalia, then great.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
And I know that's a lot of work, but
yes.
But the problem is that, or the benefit is that it's a front loading work. Once you get it done, you can reuse that every year, and it's only used for,
and it's perfectly.
It's only used for like a month or so, and if someone goes, well, it's the same every year, it's like, yeah, but how often does Christmas or Hanukkah or Easter or any holiday, religious or not, change year to year?
Yeah,
people just gonna do stuff,
and for all and not just necessarily for Luminalia, but for all those events, it's like just do something to where it makes it to where it's like. Like I always think back to WoW, right? Christmas time, there's like you would have it to where the little gnomes all wore the Santa hats, and it was stupid, but it was also one of those things that I enjoyed logging in during Christmas time or during Halloween, because you would have those little small things in the game that would make it like I see what you did there, and it just made it to where it was that little bit much more enjoyable because it seemed like the game world reflected the season.
Yeah.
And it's simple. And like, again, once you do it the first time, even if it's the same thing every year, perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
I really struggle with this one because sorry, if I can go dark there for a moment. It's strange. It's a little bit connected for me with why do I play games, and do I want to find also in some regards like something that like I want to find a world that I appreciate, and maybe that doesn't feature the things I that don't resonate with me in the real world, right?
Yeah.
And I get that the majority of people is right now getting ready for the festive mood. I'm the opposite. Like, this is for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's the worst time of the year. It's just I could not care less. And if you wish me happy, whatever, I'm like,
okay,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's for me. It's the same with Overwatch. Is a game also where whenever that winter festivity stuff goes, I'm like, oh, please be over already and return to just generic standards.
Yeah.
Paints and stuff. So it's but I know that I'm. It just so for me it's a bit like if the more you implement it into the game, and I agree with you, Nerdy Gentleman, it just makes sense. If you come up with that event, if that event exists in lore, it should be represented in the game. Personally, I would prefer that not even being part of lore. But it is there, so please do your homework and make it be reflected in the game, absolutely. And then I have to pay the price for being the Grinch and then feel like an outsider for those few weeks. Also in game, right?
But see, they could also introduce a gameplay mode for being the Grinch in there, because there's got to be those in the real in the Star Citizen universe as well, and be like, yeah, no, I take all those, and you actually get to go through and be a Grinch, and you get to just destroy all those gifts, and that's where you get some stuff out of there. Like, to me, it opens up the more possibilities in there.
That's a great pirate.
Absolutely.
The
Star stuff, the Luminalia grief. I can see the comments.
The whatever who stole Christmas or stole Luminalia.
Yeah.
It's just about it's a pirate mission where you go steal a bunch of Luminalia gifts and sell them. You know.
I've got 1 hour per day to enjoy Luminalia immersion, and along comes Star stuff and takes it away from me.
But I mean, I'm the same way about all of the events, though. Like, I'm one of those people who just like the event. If you're going to turn this into a sale, then make it a reason for me to log into game and give me something that makes it feel unique in game. You know, like during Invictus, bars should be packed with drunken Navy personnel all over the place. You know, during Red Festival, there should be people who are dressing up in like long red and gold gowns and other stuff like that you see for Lunar New Year festivities in places like Vietnam and China and Korea, like places where they celebrate those sorts of Lunar New Years. They should dress and look like they're celebrating Lunar New Year. And what else is the other ones? Like Triggerfish, you should see like people wearing ridiculous outfits because it's April Fool's Day, whatever. So those sorts of things.
And even IAE. I mean, we talked about it on here the other week, right? It's at the end of the day, it's the gap that's between what happens on the actual website and what's reflected in the game. And like, and I think Luminalia is a great example for that. And arguably with IAE, that we've got that special area there, but also there could be more happening in the in-game world in general, like more widespread IAE stuff when you come to whichever planet it is on in any given year.
All right. So we've got 4 more questions, and I want to go through these fairly quickly, but these are going to be a little bit more intense. Northern Trooper asks, for those who are new to Star Citizen and their patch release tempo, what would you say to the people to prepare them for the upcoming vacancy of patches and communication from CIG? No comms until February-ish, no major patch until March. You just said it. It's be prepared for kind of whatever you see now to be the same and just not have any kind of news and stuff like that. But I think most people are okay with that as long as the game is playable. That's the problem in the past, is that like they'll release a patch and it's either rushed and unplayable or just very minor and doesn't really change much and doesn't maybe not even give the opponent the stuff you need to do stuff. So like what is it? The optimization you would hope for the lack of updates that they've done. So, Major, any advice you'd give people for the kind of the coming drought of the next couple months?
I do not know yet. I want to say go play something else.
Yeah, that's a good example too.
There goes any remaining chance of ever getting involved professionally with. Anyway,
you funny. I have heard those words directly from multiple CIG employees' mouth very publicly. When someone's like, "Well, what happens if I'm not having fun?" They go, "Play another video game. We'll be back. We'll still be here when you come back." You know?
I mean, and I'm saying that as someone who's both at times super frustrated with the state of the game every now and then, but I have only myself to blame as someone who only been with the game for less than 2 years, yada yada. But I play this game excessively, up to the point where I have all three. I have all three versions of. I have ePTU and technical tech preview and live installed at the same time on my limited space that I've got on my hard drive, and I hardly have all the other games I install and uninstall whenever I play them or not. Like even like Star Trek, the game that we both play and other games. So I play Star Citizen arguably too much for I used to be more of a variety gamer, and I play Star Citizen too much, so I've only got myself to blame. But I think keeping in mind that you can be a Star Citizen supporter and fan and root for the developers and celebrate and the successes and everything, that's all the progress that we've seen and that we're all hoping for. It's okay to take a break. And I play Star Citizen every game for too many hours, specifically right now that I'm in between jobs, as they say, wink, wink. But it's been super healthy to just take a step back and just do something else, right? Drink tea, play a different kind of game, and then come back with renewed, even if it's only for a few days. You will see that you'll come back with renewed energy, and it will feel less like, oh, I'm sitting here playing this game, waiting for, and maybe it's only me who's this extreme. I don't know, but I can only tell from myself that take a step back, do something else, play something else, and then come back even if it's only a few days later or a week later, and you'll have renewed motivation. And it's like in a relationship, right? If you spend each day, every day, 24 hours, 24/7 with each other, you want to do something by yourself, maybe to get that renewed, distance and healthy distance, and then being able to appreciate the closeness again, right? Yeah. That's treated like you would treat a healthy relationship with someone you love passionately.
Yeah, I got that. Gentlemen, any advice you'd give?
I've been been a backer for a really long time on this game, and it always comes in ebbs and flows. Even if it's a hot cycle and there's new stuff that's dropping, I'm like, if I'm in an out state, I'm in an out state for it. And it can happen, me and my wife were coming up on 20 years. So if she says, hey, babe, we need to do this, and we're going to do this for the next couple months, gotcha, cool. So I've kind of gone through these ebbs and flows before. I actually now appreciate more the slower cycles. If they have a cycle of big stuff, new things coming through, whenever they get in that spot for hey, the next month and a half, it's going to be kind of a lull. I appreciate that more for multiple reasons. One, because generally that gives me time to where I can actually just concentrate on some of the music stuff or working on some of the things that have been taking me a while to go through and do, without going through and being like, oh, but I really want to play this, or I really want to deal with these, or I really want to go through and help with these patch notes, or help with bug finding or whatever. And so I always say, just take those times to appreciate it, because we are going to have that. And I agree 100% with Major Star stuff. Find another game out there that's either can be in the same genre, like Space Engineers, or different genres. Go through with something like Diablo, or one of the South Park games, which they go on sale all the time for $7, and the Stick of Truth and the Fractured But Whole are just hilarious to me. But find those other outlets that you can go through and do to not get burnt out on it. And I think Sketch Therapy actually brought up a really good point. The people that get so jaded, get so in that cycle of, oh my God. As soon as you start going through and looking at the other games that are out there and be like, oh, holy shit, we're actually doing really well with a lot of these problems that we have over here. It's because you're in that cycle and you're in that echo chamber of nothing but Star Citizen, that you blow the smallest things into the largest problems, whenever at the big scale of things, everything's running relatively smoothly. I say again, 3.18 was an actual disaster.
Yeah.
And that's the only time in the history of Star Citizen that I really, really remember being like, holy crap, this is terrible. And since then, you know, I know we're going to have, whenever they have introductions of new stuff in the future, it's going to go through and have its ups and downs. But right now we're in a good spot. Enjoy it. And really just kind of go out there and learn the different game modes that you've never even touched before. I've never wanted to go to explore the different derelict settlements. Cool. Go explore them. Figure it out. Do stuff on your own. Don't do stuff that's just based off of what somebody told you to do in a video.
That's probably the other element, right? Play a different game, or play a different game within Star Citizen. Go challenge yourself. My analogy would be, I used to be so bad at StarCraft, Protoss beauty building, base building player, until the day when I was like, I decided to, I want to get good at this game, or at least decent. And I challenged myself to learn how to play the Zerg out of all the races. And it's still today, it's been too long, but I still feel most comfortable just playing the Zerg and then 4-pool or 6-pool rushing or whatever. And do that within Star Citizen. Maybe you think you are not interested in PvP and in combat, and give it a try. Find a nice person that you trust. Maybe not some hardcore PvPer who throws shade on industrial players and space dads, but find someone who's like in between the worlds and whom you trust to treat you kindly and show you the ropes with piracy. It's so much fun. And the other way around.
You're trying to try hard. Try to go learn salvage or mining. Yeah. You'd be surprised. Yeah.
Exactly. How much fun it can be to just take screenshots.
Oh yeah, work on cinematography skills in game. That's
great.
Right there. That's good stuff.
That's something I need to get into.
And so someone was saying, like, do these people exist? And I think that the question is more asked in the spirit of, we've had a absolutely rapid fire release schedule for Star Citizen lately. So if you got into the game in, say, August, there's been a patch almost every month, a major patch almost every month since August. There was a patch in August. 3.21 came out.
I have to write that down. Great.
Yeah. 3.21 I think came out in September, and then October may be the only. No, I think it was 3.21 came out in October, and then And then November had the IAE patch, and the December we have 3.22. We were talking about boom, 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 big patches adding lots of stuff and content in the course of 5 months, which, you know, before that we had effectively 3.18 from January all the way through June, and then from June to July, or June to like August, September, we had 3.19. So it's been pretty much the same, like 2 patches for half the year, and then 4 major patches, or four big patches over the course of 5 months. So if you are one of those people who just came in recently, like, oh, this is great, they're getting patches all the time, it's like, it's about to get slow.
Oh yeah,
it's about to slow way the hell down over the next couple of months.
That back in there. We're gonna
Yeah, right. Like when I came in, I was like the first few weeks when you're in that bubble of everything, I can. It's so immersive. This is the closest I'll ever get to landing on a moon and walking on a moon, and voila, moon, so beautiful. Wow, I can do. It gets boring after a while, right? And then you realize, okay, this. But if you found the game this year, specifically around CitizenCon, with all the things that you saw about what's coming, like in the coming months and in the coming year, you're probably like, okay, when's that coming? You already kind of know what you expect, what you're expecting next, right? That's maybe has gotten more attention this year than it in the past. Like people were more in the moment and great, the stuff we can do, and yes, there's more stuff coming, but right now the focus is a lot on, we know what's coming and we want it to come as soon as possible, and that's probably also true for new players then, that they're more aware of that.
All right, we got last 3 questions, and I'm trying to go through these faster, but this one I'm going to keep this is the last one for more. Gin and Tonic says RSI has 7 unreleased ships, not counting variants. MISC has 6. Aegis has 5. All the rest only have 1 or 2. What manufacturer should get focused on next? Personally, MISC. MISC has the ships that have the most impact on gameplay going forward. The Expanse, the Endeavor, the different Hull series variants, and the Hull series that's just an easy money. You know, it's just scaling of this whole sea. So a lot of that work, the hard work's already done. So it's just a matter of getting this the D and E and wouldn't be too difficult, and the B probably a little bit more difficult, but not too much. So, but yeah, I think a lot of the, and then the Odyssey is probably the prototype for the Endeavor, and the Expanse is definitely the prototype for server or for refining. So yeah, that has the most practical ships in terms of gameplay loop. Aegis is mostly just combat ships and capital ships, and RSI is already going to be the one that's being worked on next. So yeah, Misk, what do you think, Nerdy?
There's a bias on my side because I'm a backer of the Expanse. As soon as they announced it, I was like, yep. So yes, I would agree with you on that. But also in that same sense, there's a side of me that really would like to see some of the other manufacturers go through and develop ships that are outside of the norm for their spots. Not ridiculously outside, but like I'd like to see more Argo ships. I'd like to see more ships that go through and kind of expand that out there. I would love to see Grey Cat actually go through and do mixes between with co shipbuilding, whatever, with companies like Anvil or Drake, like be a Drake Grey Cat collaborative ship or vehicle, for land-based mining or underground mining. Like I'd love to see those sides of it. So there's both sides of me where I'm like, yes, Misk, focus on them. Let's get the refining gameplay loop out and set, because the more gameplay loops that we have, even at stage 0.5 or 0 or tier 1, whatever they want to go through and call them whenever they release them out, I am absolutely down for that. But I would also like, part of me is kind of the opposite of what I said earlier about like form and engineering and workflow. I also like to see like what other crazy shit you got cooked up back there that we just don't even know about. So there's that side as well.
Major, which one would you want to see focused on next?
I will make it short. Promise, pinky promise. Yeah, I want to agree with Misk. I mean, obviously we run at RSI right now. They're going to do all the ships from until through Galaxy and what have you, right? And then either Misk, but I think I really want to say, after everything we said about Aegis, and that would be my one point. I would say after RSI, wouldn't it make more sense to go Aegis first, because they're more combat focused, and combat is something that's a gameplay loop that exists. Whereas thing of Odyssey, yes, it's refining stuff, but it's refining it. Odyssey is it's exploration ship. So, and exploration, what is exploration, and does it make sense to work on Misk if Odyssey is kind of like the blueprint for everything, and if you end up releasing a ship that doesn't have a gameplay loop?
Yeah,
and to be working on that right now. That's my only that can I mean, in terms of their thought processes, maybe for them it makes more sense to RSI and then go Aegis and then Misk next. But I would love to see Misk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Second to last question. Midnight Black IC, why is Squadron still not back on the Pledge store? That is a good question. And I was told this by some people in Major Star Stuff. Since you're German, you probably have better understanding than I do about this. Because the rumor that was running around was that the reason why CIG took it off the storefront was because of a German law that had been passed, or a law that or some sort of court ruling in Germany that said that unless you have a release date for an item, you can't do pre-sales for it. But the problem about that explanation is then just make it not available in the EU. It would still should be available for other places. And yeah, other people could purchase it in the EU, but I mean, you just don't make Squadron 42 available in the EU. You could still make it for everybody else. And so that rumor just doesn't fly with me. I think it's just too bad of a rumor. And what CIG has said is it was for price, like there were just price changes, and they even said that. But I don't know how much. I don't know enough about German law to know about how like if would a court case be something that would make a new law in Germany, or like it does in the United States, or is it more of a interpretation sort of deal? Because like in the U.S., basically like a court case can effectively make a new law out of whole cloth without
Yeah,
the
I'm trying to
approval.
Google.
So,
I'm trying to Google the German interwebs as we speak. The problem is, why don't we qualify to address that? Is I don't follow. I'm not too much
I can tell you
involved
the
with
case.
the German-speaking community. So I probably the German language content creators probably even covered it in the past. I wouldn't know. So it sounds to me like something. I'm not sure if like I don't have a background in law, but it sounds to me like something that kind of knowing everything that's German and even EU customer law and stuff like that, still you agreed to something, whether it's a finished finalized product or not. Like we have early access stuff in the gaming industry and everywhere. You sign up for something, you sign an agreement, you are aware of what you're signing up for. So I'm not sure if that's the reason. But what's the general consensus? Is it not just that they made it unavailable because it makes sense to like split the two things, and that was always my understanding. It just makes sense to take it off and then bring it up again for the start of the actual marketing campaign for Squadron 42.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. It's because like it was available for super cheap, and CIG and the thing is that and you can still get it with certain packs, but you have to spend a lot of money.
You don't want to sell a standalone a single player campaign that you've spent so much time and money on. You don't want to make it accessible to a wider market and more mainstream target audience aside from like outside the backer scene. You don't want to make it accessible at the price that it was available for us. I guess that's the
I think the answer was, if you look at when it was taken off it was taken off around June, and I think honestly, personally, I think that's when they actually reached feature complete status. Was June of this year, because based off of what I've been thinking back, and I'm like, yeah, that actually tracks. And right when they took it off was when they started talking about betas and post alpha and stuff. It's like, oh, so what happened is they had a meeting, they realized they're getting close to or at feature complete status, and they said, pull it off the website, because if this starts getting out, that people that we're finishing up, there might be a rush to go purchase it at a cheaper price. And once it gets to that cheaper price, then you will lose that money in the long term. And
and again, business-wise, probably the best decision. Communication-wise, again, personally, if I were in someone's shoes, I'd probably use that as an opportunity to create a nice story around it in terms of community engagement and telling us the story of, hey, you've all had the chance and you have until
this time.
The bubble of the backers still have up until to get it at this reduced price. Then we're going to take it off because we're going to open it up for the wider audience and we have to make money, yada, yada, yada. Everybody would have understood. We'd all have been happy, and it would have been a great chance to but missed opportunity in terms of public relations, in my opinion. But
I agree. I think it was a fumble to a bit, because it's still kind of a mystery. The answer is, the official answer of Midnight Black SC is, we have no idea. Nobody knows why. I think the other than what CIG said, which was a price change. But I think the actual honest to God answer is they took it off because they want to release it. My guess is at a big announcement, they'll make an announcement for a release date, and they'll announce a standard edition, a deluxe edition, and a collector's edition. And there's three different SKUs, probably a brand new website that they're going to run it on, so it's completely separate from Star Citizen, or it's part of, it's like a separate entity, because it has to have its own identity separate from Star Citizen.
Right.
There's probably a lot of different factors that are being put in place. Knowing CIG the way I know, that a lot of that stuff may have already been planned for, say, CitizenCon, and they just ran out of resources. Like, some people were doing other things and they just didn't have the time for it, or somebody got sick, or somebody quit, or somebody got a better job, or whatever. So,
but still, it's so sorry. I don't want to go on that rant right now, but I think it's so disappointing in a way. Like as in terms of Grant, I just look at it and like, I want to help you.
Yes,
Grant,
please.
Great brand storytelling is really like, you've got so much. You've got such CIG. You've got such a dedicated community of backers who've been with you all this way, and and everybody's so loyal, like with all the toxicity that's also there and all the negative feedback and unjustified feedback. But just take us by the hand and take us along for the journey as we follow you, and also give us information that makes us feel like there's a mutual respect, and there's like you're talking to us at like as we in German say on auf Augenhöhe, like at eye level, like give us that information in advance, use it for your brand storytelling, for community, like to make us feel more also the journey in terms of we will understand and we'll like celebrate you for sharing that with you, or bits and pieces, even if you do not know already what's it going to be in the end. Like that's something you can share already. We don't know yet how much it's going to be for the wider audience, and how we're going to do it, and how that separate website's going to look like, and the market. But that's information you can talk about that. Put it in the videos. You're making developer interviews. You can have someone from marketing talk about a little bit of that. Why not? Why not have someone from marketing? I challenge you to CIG. Why not have someone from marketing share a little bit about like brand strategy, marketing, without giving away company secrets and too much. I understand, but you can tell a little bit about that and give us a few insights.
I know you have brand managers, CIG. I've seen you hiring them. You can bring them on. Jared, drag some brand managers on to SCL. I guarantee you.
And if they don't want to be in front of camera, hire someone who's willing to get in front of a camera and be like that communicator of why certain brand decisions have to be made in a certain way, and why it's not all black and white.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if you have anything else to add, nerdy, but yeah.
Thanks for that space for the little pitch there. Not sure
that's fine.
Do any good, but yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, it's confusing to me just because I feel like it's like, again, a wasted opportunity to, as you say, tell a story, but also to build connections, because that's one of those great things where when CIG is communicating with a community and the community is communicating back, that's memorable. That's stuff that people remember, like the Argo MPUV winning the Best in Show. That was a two-way communication between CIG and the community, and they were talking back and forth, and that became this big event that people will remember if they're in that community for a long time. A good example of this is something that happened in WoW, which was the plague that spread, the accidental pandemic that happened inside of WoW, where like that plague spread all over the servers, and they even studied it for transmission, like of how it functioned. Like, yeah, the holiday live stream is another one that they're starting to actually meme on and joke about, which is nice. Like, I'm glad that they did.
All those things, they make it to where we have these insider jokes as a community. And I don't have much to say. I will say one small thing. If it's looking at it, if there was this conversation in the room or whatever when they were talking about it, if we pull it off, we have the potential to go through and make more money on this later on. I think that's too narrow-sighted, because right now, if they would have gone through and done exactly like Major Star Stuff said and said, hey guys, so we're going to be pulling this off at the end of, if they knew it in July, and said at the end of August, we're going to go through and be pulling this off. And the reason is because we want to go through and make it to where you guys are locked in that are set up there. I agree that that would have been much better for the community, because then people that were on the fence at that point in time would have said, fuck it, I'm pulling the trigger. Yeah. And then the people that were going through, if they're saying like, oh, we're going to be limiting if we don't go through and do that now, we're going to have more sales on this later on. No, because right now, the people that already know about this game, and you would have got them to pull the trigger. Yeah. You're trying to go through Neutral Squadron 42 and all this new stuff is people that have never freaking heard about Star Citizen. Yeah. Or that it's a scam. Yeah. That's a whole new audience that hasn't even, this isn't even part of there. So I think that if that would have been a part of the conversation, that's way too narrow-minded. And so I don't actually believe that was a part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. But I agree that if they would have gone through and said, hey guys, end of August, we're going to go through and be pulling this. So Squadron 42 will not be a part of the gameplay packages. You would have had people that go through and said, I've been wanting to go through and pull this $45 trigger forever. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And they would have been in there, but they've already been in the community. They already understand that in the community. The stuff in the future, that's a whole different level of eyes that are going to be opened up to what this community is at that point in time. Well, and I think that's too narrow-sighted to say if they released it
20-minute long trailer, which got freaking such play through every corner of the internet, has seen that trailer now. So it's like you had this great moment of marketing, which wasn't necessarily marketing, it was just more for the community, and you didn't like capitalize on it at all. Which I don't even mean in terms of funding, but I mean, yes, in terms of funding. The F-8C, for instance, was done because of funding. Like, it's a cool idea, but it was done to sell some ships. So like, let's not pretend that they're like a nonprofit. They're there to make money. But they could have easily, it is a business, but they could have easily like just expanded upon it more. Like, by the way, we have this, it's for sale for pre-order. You can get it right now. And people would have pulled that stuff. And it's just such a weird kind of weird strategy that I still don't fully understand. And I think that's probably, and
you can still increase the price further later, right? It's a special pre-sale and it's $50 right now. Maybe it's $80, and you know, it's as you said, Nerdy. It's chapter, like, this is a different chapter, and now we're going into another chapter, totally different target audience. Like, they've been blessed with people who are like us. Like, we spend tens or hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on imaginary spaceships. The main, like, the big target audience that's waiting there, like, that got like a taste of what's to come, like with the trailer, and then with all the mainstream or the big streamers then covering Squadron 42. Like, they're not gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on spaceships. That is not going to happen. They're going to buy the game for $60, $70, what have you, like Squadron, and then they're going to maybe progress into Star Citizen afterwards.
Yeah.
But only a small number of people will be as obsessed with spaceships as we are, and who do not already know by now of Star Citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have
I know that was a bit
blueprint
longer of an answer, but it's one of those ones where it needed to be justified that way. Like, I think that they could have handled it better with communications, absolutely. But you know, we've been saying that for years. On as soon as they took away a lot of the back and forth, you know, every time they did, it was just one of those big kind of like stab in the hearts where we're like, really, we do actually do appreciate the conversations, and just because of a few bad actors and the thing that would go through and lose their shit because you said it was going to be coming out on this next patch and it didn't, and it's just like a few bad apples go through and spoil for everyone, you know.
This, speaking of that, this is a great segue for the final question. I saved this for the last one because have both of you have seen the latest Inside Star Citizen, right?
Yes.
Yes, I watched it today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the question is, in the last Inside Star Citizen, what feature that they said is coming in the next 6 months do you each want the most? And I'll add this.
Have I actually watched it?
Okay, yeah. Did you not watch it?
Oops.
I'll give you the crib notes. Pretty much everything that was mentioned, other than say like base building, for at CitizenCon, Jared just went out and was like, "I'll put my backer hat on." All of these things are coming out in the first half of next year. So everything at CitizenCon is coming out except for, you know,
base building,
in Squad 42. That's it. I mean, pretty much everything else, 100% coming out in the first half of next year. Plan to come out in the first half of next year. So, yeah, and I was watching it live, and when he said that, I was just like, Jared, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, I had the same exact reaction. I was watching it as soon as it came on YouTube, and I was like, oh man.
And then he said, Pyro is set to 4.0 is scheduled to come out in summer of 2024, and at that point I'm like, and Jared's fired. Like this is the thing that's gonna get Jared fired. Like, oh my god. Yeah, right.
You know, Chris was in the background like, tell him this. Let's see what happens.
Oh god. It's like that's the first confirmation of it for a long time. So it's just like, oh god, oh fuck, and I'm like, it's too late now. You can't take it back. Someone has chiseled it in stone on their promised wall.
That
Yeah,
was he had the different hat.
it
I
doesn't
love that he
matter.
took the second hat off the first was underneath.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. All that anyone heard was 4.0 is coming out in summer 2024, and like people are just salivating, like, when they miss this date, I'm going to be so good at screaming out they're a liar, you know, like, oh gosh, working jump points. Yeah, it was selling almost. It sounded almost. I mean, it definitely did sound too good to be true. It was just so much.
He did qualify it though with we're aiming for release.
Yeah.
But so I guess as a question like what's the one
what
thing
would
that we're looking?
Do you think you're looking forward to for? Yeah. But,
gotcha. Okay.
Personally, and I'll also add into it, which one do you think is least likely going to make it in the first 6 months?
Oh. Wait, two separate questions or?
Both the same question. I'll add that to the question, which is which one are you looking forward most to, and which one do you think is the least likely to make it? Because personally, I'm looking forward to the star map and the new mobile glass, just because I despise the current mobile glass with a fiery passion. It's such a bad design. The UI is so weird. Like it's. And the star map is based off of the Arc star map, so it looks great. So it's like, yeah, it's great. You did the stuff which is you took your award-winning website and literally award-winning website and used that as the basis for the map. Your award-winning map is now the basis of the map that you're going to use. Probably a good idea.
Therefore, award-winning star map.
Yes. Exactly.
Obviously.
As for what's least likely to make it in, I think master modes, probably.
Really? Okay.
I think master modes will be in, but I think it'll be the thing that Yogi loves to do, which is generic, like homogenize. Like all of the ships will be a class. So like. All interceptors will have the same performance. All medium fighters will have the same performance. All light fighters will have the same performance. All heavy fighters have the same performance. All industrial ships will have the same performance. Like there'll be no nuance between them in terms of like how they function.
Honestly, if there's if there's that much nuance, I'd say that's a big one. I think they did say that they were going to try to go through, and he did say even if whether it's going to be all of them or it might be like in iterations of like, hey, these four ships.
Yeah, he did, but I also don't think. I think that Yogi doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to. He wants to do all or nothing because it just doesn't really work. You can't like.
I agree.
Mode, so, yeah.
That's a pretty good list. Yeah. That's a pretty good 2. I would say that's pretty good 2.
So, Major, I'll ask you the question: Which of the stuff at CitizenCon that you saw are you most excited to see?
I want to say Star Map because that's just a huge pain in so many things, but also it's just such an overdue quality of life improvement that I don't want to put it like it's just give us a Star Map and be done with it. It's not even for me. It's not even part of the new stuff. It's obvious that it has to happen. I'm going to say engineering gameplay. Really, it's in my opinion, it's going to change so much how we play, how we see this game, how we look at flying big ships solo, and understanding that that's not something that's really a smart choice. Maybe it's also the thing that's unlikely to come within the first 6 months because I can see so many people complaining, yeah, I love the idea and it's great and it needs to come, but give us AI crew, NPC crew and blades and stuff like that first, right? Because, of course, us space parents, we still want to fly our big ships solo just with NPCs and AI crew. So I fear that maybe that engineering stuff is going to come second half of the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nerdy, what are you looking forward to?
I want to be different, but the sky map is the worst thing ever. And you, like, I'm like, nah, I'll try to figure out something different that I would want more than anything. I want a better sky map more than I want server meshing in the game. And that sounds like a crazy. Server meshing has been getting beat over our heads for the past 4 years now. 2018, 2019. 2018, I think it was. And as much as I want server meshing, I hate the sky map so much. And just even more recently, I don't know if you guys have been trying to fly around, but it seems like it's even gotten worse to where you're like, I just need to go to Yella from Seraphim Station. It's like, I can't do it. Or from Crew L1, try to get anywhere inside Crusader from Crew L1. You have to go out to Arc L4 first for 1,000,000 kilometers before you can go through and turn right back around. It's just so frustrating. I realize that it's a lot more than just that with the sky map. It has the search functionality. It has a lot of different things in there. I just want it to work. I want it to work well. I want it to go through and have functionality that goes beyond just being able to point and click. I want to be able to go through and have something to where if I get voice attack to go in there and say, sweet, navigate to Crew L1, it can actually go through and do that functionality inside of there and make it to where that pops up center screen. So you can go through and use other systems that are not API driven out of it to go through and have further functionality in there. And it has to happen. It's one of those ones to where it sounds crazy that you would want that more than server meshing static or dynamic. I don't care about pyro at this point in time. Make it to where I can actually navigate around the verse much more easily, and I'll be happy. As for things that that I don't think will make it, that might not make it by the timeline. I see server meshing. I see at least implementation of static server meshing not being able to go through. And the only reason why I say that is because, yes, I realize they're going through and putting in the implementation of the replication layer into a 3.22x. And I understand why they didn't want to go through and put that out right before they go away for a few weeks for Christmas. But I see that I don't want them to feel like they have to rush that. I want them to get it done right. And so it's the only one on the list that I'm like, you know what? If you put in the new nav system, the sky map, and it's messed up, how bad can it be? And I know that's saying that facetiously because right now we already have a really crappy system, but we saw the rollout of 3.18, and that was just with the persistent entity streaming system put in place. Now imagine going through and really messing up static server meshing for a large part of the community and taking weeks / a month and a half, 2 months to go through and get fixed to where literally people just can't get in altogether. I would rather them go through and go slow on that than fast on that. Don't put a time limit on it. Figure it out. Do the iterations, work it through the tech preview channel, and let it just, if it comes out to a smooth, great rollout and it just works for fucking everybody on the first time, I will be happy, but don't put a time limit on it.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Thank you so much for Major Star Stuff and gentlemen for joining us. This is a longer one, but it was a good one. A lot of really in-depth questions and other good stuff.
We started a bit later, right?
Yeah, we started a little bit later too. So
we went a little bit long.
Thank you for joining us. Then make sure you're checking out Major Star Stuff at twitch.tv/Major Star Stuff, youtube.com/Major Star Stuff. And then what was the T one you were looking for? It's Thomas T.
Thomas Talks T on the interwebs. Yeah.
Go do that. If you like tea, go for that. I'm going to start doing that because I don't drink tea, so I need to like know.
Yeah, we can open a space pub /tea bar at one point in game, right?
There we go. And of course, you check out the Nerdy Gentlemen all over the internet. Anywhere when you go and check out their latest videos, their latest music, and of course, Major Star Stuff just has a video on the Banu alphabet. So if you're interested in Banu alphabet,
it's already 3 weeks old, but please go watch it. But more importantly, the mining song. Listen to the
listen to the mining song, which came out as well. Yes, make sure you listen to that one. It's pretty good. Drake, if you like some Drake Nelson songs, so it's about Drake. It's great. Drake Nelson. And of course, if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button as well, and comment down below your own thoughts on anything we see. And if you're watching this on Twitch, hit that follow button. And if you want to know, this is a live broadcast, so if you want to catch it live and get your own questions in, or for whatever kind of topics we do this on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I would love to have you come here at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
Bye.